often like rename characters in RPGs and stuff. I almost always name my the Pokemon I like, right? So like I get attached to the starter. I kind of want the starter to have like some personality to it, so I name that. If there's another Pokemon that really stands out to me early on, I'll name that Pokemon. But most of them I just kind of leave because I don't plan on ever using them or whatever. But yeah, we are live, and welcome everyone to the Vomitorium. As always, I am your host Metal, and joining me is my co-host Marsupial Gamer. How are you doing today?
It's great. How are you?
I'm doing peachy. Especially because
Cool.
I have meat in my stomach. I actually bothered to eat something before the podcast.
I didn't.
Yeah, it looks like I'm eating right now.
Well, I'm chewing on a cough drop,
Oh, okay.
basically.
That's something. Dude, I've, you know, when you're in poverty, which I've been in, like, the bottom end, I mean, you know what it's like. I've had days where, like, I'm so hungry, I'll go to the corner store, and I'll get, like, a 99-cent fountain drink, like, and that sugar will get me through the day, and then I'll pick up, like, a lozenge or two.
I have been there.
Yeah.
I've done like price checks, like gone to different, different gas stations where I'm like, okay, how many ounces can I get for 99 cents? Oh wait, this one's 87 cents.
Yeah.
And I can get more here.
Oh,
and
if
I'm
I go to
like,
Quick Trip, I can get, like, nearly a liter and a half for 70 cents.
yeah. I'm like, can I live on sugar water alone? Because that is cheap as hell.
It's like I need it.
Yes, I've been there. I've been there.
Times get rough. You gotta make the right decisions.
Yeah. Lately, I've been like marveling at the fact that my bank account actually has 4 figures in it. I'm like, oh my god, what am I gonna do with all this money? This is insane.
Probably should be saving most of it.
Yeah, I am, but it's tempting. I'm just like, can I afford a new MacBook? I'm gonna price that out. Oh, $4,000. Well, can't quite afford that yet, but
Well, at least, thanks to the generosity of your loved ones, you don't have to save up for a vehicle.
that's true. That is true. But I'm actually like I'm looking at the MacBook Pros and I'm drooling over them. I'm a Mac junkie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
Everyone has.
I'm
their
looking at
brands.
it. Yeah, and I'm configuring a new MacBook Pro because this one is so fucking old. It's like, I mean, I guess it's 6 years old.
Yeah.
But it is, the battery like expanded and popped open the base. So it constantly overheats. It's the mess. But I'm configuring the thing and I'm like, you know what? I could configure a MacBook Pro very easily that will be more expensive than my truck.
Yeah.
It would be considerably more expensive than my truck. And I'm like, oh my God, why is it so expensive?
Yeah, you gotta think, like, why did they ever let it get that far? And I think it's because
I don't know.
for a long time, I would say probably since, the turn of the millennia, maybe a little after that, they started selling themselves as luxury products. They weren't any longer the every person's computer. They started being like the name brand.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, here's the thing. They offer premium hardware. So like, I'm not going to buy a MacBook that's more expensive than my truck, but you can. Like like this one has a 1 terabyte hard drive, which was pretty damn big 6 years ago. Now, the one I'm probably going to get is only 2 terabyte hard drive. It's an SSD, but they offer an 8 terabyte if you want to pay an extra like $2,000. So it's like, an 8 terabyte SSD is pretty fucking expensive, and they offer it if you want it. But
Well, and my thing is, I used to complain about Apple because they do offer quality like hardware, but comparatively, it was still a bit overpriced for what the hardware would have costed for the rest of the market. You were just paying for the Apple name brand. The problem is that's not the case anymore because everybody's playing the game, and everybody's selling those things for the same price, so there's really no way of getting it cheaper, because you have like Alienware is selling stuff off of just the name of Alienware for like the same price and stuff. There's almost nowhere in town you can go where things aren't that expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, where else can you get? It's hard to find a laptop with, like, for instance, a high-end desktop level graphics card if you want it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to get it because it's ridiculous, but you can, for like an extra $1,500 or $2,000, get a ridiculous graphics card in a MacBook Pro if you want.
Yeah, well, and any other of the few brands that do that too, you're going to be paying just as much. You know, there's
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, for what I need, it's not going to be that expensive.
Like, I would say the complaints that I had towards Mac were viable about a decade ago. But the way the market's changed is just like, it's not anymore. Everything's that way. Yeah.
And I mean, if you want a cheaper Mac, you can get one.
Oh yeah.
They offer cheaper ones. I mean, people say they're overpriced. Well, how are you configuring it? You know, you can, or you can get one that's a couple of years old.
I was having a conversation with Rick because he was talking about how cheap memory is, and I was like, well, I mean, an SSD is going to be expensive. It's going to be hard to find multiple terabytes of an SSD cheap. He's like, no, I saw one for like $100 the other day, and I went on with him. He's like, Rick, you're looking at a 8 HDD. You're looking at a hard disk drive. You're not looking at a solid state. Hard disk is going to be a lot cheaper, like nearly an order of magnitude cheaper for the same amount of memory.
Yeah. Although now SSDs are going down in price, and they're getting bigger.
But
because I mean, think about it.
Huge difference in price between the two.
There it is. Still, But I mean, if you think about it, it's just a bunch of chips on a board that shouldn't be that expensive compared to this big mechanism with a spinning disc and all that shit.
Well, you know what probably makes it so expensive is the amount of platinum that goes into them.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had that conversation last night.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, it's small, minuscule amounts. You have to have a lot for it to add up, but there is still platinum going into these chips, as opposed to the traditional hard disk drives. Yeah.
Yeah, and considering platinum's like was it $1,100 an ounce or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
At this point. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's appropriate. It's been pretty stable with inflation. Gold's the one that jumped up.
Yeah. It's kind of insane. Like, I don't know what point it happened, but it's crazy that gold became more expensive than platinum.
Yeah. I think it's just technology's part of it, because there's a lot more gold that goes into everything we use now, computing wise, than there is platinum. I mean, even your phone has a marginal amount of gold in it.
Yeah. Gold though, I just wonder how many gold mines haven't been discovered yet.
Oh, tons.
And if somebody goes out there, I mean, it's kind of like oil, there's a huge incentive now to go out and try and find more gold. And if somebody finds a humongous mine, the price could just crash.
Yeah.
if they could get it easily.
I don't think finding a humongous mine of gold will crash the price. And there's a lot of different economic reasons for that, and the way everything's structured. Like, to find a vein that would crash the price of gold, you'd basically have to find a vein the size of Utah. Yeah. We could bring it down some, but it wouldn't crash it,
Yeah. You'd have to, like, double the existing gold in the world or something like that.
Alternatively, we haven't found gold existing on asteroids and stuff because of the nature of like the elemental weight of gold. It probably won't form outside of anything larger than a planet, or smaller than a planet. But if we did find an asteroid that was mostly gold, some of these things out in the asteroid belt are so big that they're bigger than, say, like the state of Utah. If you found an asteroid that's mostly gold, you could probably ruin the entire gold market.
That sounds like something that might exist in the Final Fantasy universe.
Probably. Yeah. Well, because
A gold
we know
asteroid.
nickel, right? There's asteroids out there that a single asteroid has more than what we expect the remaining nickel reserves on the planet to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we think of. The future is either mining colonies or stations that can repair and operate bots for the mines, right? Because you don't necessarily have to put people out there on these rocks. You just have to put them close enough that they can maintain the robots that do the mining themselves. So even something as close as, say, like Mars, right? You can have a space station that orbits Mars, which that would be like, I think, a 3-year trip back and forth for sending supplies between Earth and there, which should be the case anyway. If you're going to travel between planets, using traditional rockets as the main transport would be dumb, right? It'd be a waste of fuel. You kind of just want rockets to get up and down to a space station, because then you could use things like light sails and stuff to be more fuel efficient to go between the stations. And then just have floating ports, like a spaceport out there. And then from the spaceport, which people could live there basically indefinitely if you build it right, like a small colony, then you could send remote robots out to do mining on the asteroid belt, which is another few years away. That'd be the smart thing to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Just mining for gold.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, is like, gold is such a weird thing. It's useful for technology. Like, we'll still always want it for technology. The value of gold before we figured out that it was useful for the tech that we use has always been inflated by how rare and fragile the material is. Because it really wasn't useful in the past.
Yeah.
Right? You couldn't use it to build things unless you made it really, really dense and heavy, which wasted a lot of gold. Because gold is so fragile that it's like if you made it thin, it would bend or break or anything. Like, one way people could tell that that it's an old trope, but it's a real gold coin, is if you can bite into it and bend it, because of how fragile gold is. Other metals wouldn't do that.
Actually, leave teeth marks in it. Yeah. So soft.
Yeah, and but the softness of gold is actually the benefit to it when we get to the technological stage. It's funny that how it ended up working around that way. But we'll always want that. I feel like in the future, a lot of these more precious metals that are useful for various things like nickel, and especially because we see how much nickel is out there, and it won't be a rare market, but it'll be a high market. Like, I feel like stuff like nickel is probably going to be the mineral of the future. And there's probably going to be entire wars over mining nickel, maybe even cobalt too, because cobalt has that really big advantage that the 3 ferrous metals have, that it is ferromagnetic, so it can be used for a lot of things too. But cobalt's also a very rare metal.
Yeah.
Not so much in asteroids, though.
The gold is conductive, but it's not magnetic, right?
Yeah. It's non-ferrous, or non-ferric. Which is obviously named after iron, ferron, which is ferromagnetic. Yeah.
Can't align those electrons.
Yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. The space mining, I think, that's the most interesting topic, because there's a lot of people already looking into it, and they don't talk about it too much publicly. But I think part of what's driving the space race is the potential of mining asteroids and stuff. Right? This is why everybody wants to get to Mars, because it's like, no, Mars, we can settle on a new planet. That's not the reason all these billionaires want to get to Mars. They want to get to Mars because it is a solid stopping point before reaching the asteroid belt. That's why they want to get to Mars.
Are there no precious metals on Mars?
Oh, there probably are. But it's like, why hollow out your potential space station if you treat Mars as like a space station when you have talking orders of magnitude more precious metals in the surrounding asteroid belt, you know? Like, some of these asteroids are the size of small moons, and they're just like minerals from top to bottom all the way through.
Yeah. Just brings to mind like images of Minecraft and
Yeah.
oxygen not included.
That was both bringing that up. The one that you played a lot was oxygen not included. That immediately makes me think of like mining colonies around asteroids and stuff. Or what was the Jetsons movie? That one animated movie where George was sent off to an asteroid mining colony, and they ended up meeting those aliens and stuff like that.
I don't know if I saw that.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's a well animated movie.
Yeah, they recently, speaking of which, nice segue. They recently released DLC for Oxygen Not Included.
Oh,
that
cool.
makes it more. There's basically more shuttling between planets.
Yeah.
So like originally, you start out on one planet, and you can build a rocket ship, and basically all you can do is ship it to a planet, and it will come back with resources. So you can include in the rocket a solid storage unit, a liquid storage unit, or an animal storage, so you can actually find other creatures on other planets, or any combination of those, and bring them back. The new one, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm not entirely sure what's in it. The new one has more, like, you can basically create a whole new colony on a whole new planet, and you can like shuttle resources back and forth. Now, problem is, I like to play that game with a lot of mods, and initially, it's the DLC. I think the DLC is still in early access, or it's still beta or something.
Yeah.
But they initially shut off all mods if you wanted to use the DLC, and they recently, like last week, reactivated mods for the DLC version, but like 80% of the mods that I use are not compatible with the new version. So I'm just like waiting for a couple more to be updated so I can use them. So I haven't really played the new version. I've got the new version, but I've still been sticking with the old one because I'm like, I don't really want to play without the mod that increases the storage capacity of things, or the mod that there's one mod. So initially, this game, Oxygen Not Included, was originally created as specifically a temperature simulator. Really, I mean, that's sort of the main. It's not actually oxygen; it's temperature that you're constantly trying to deal with. And obviously, they added more to it, but the biggest thing that you have to deal with is temperature. And there are all these devices to heat things up. You can heat up water, you can heat up the air, but there's no devices to cool things down.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the most difficult parts of the game, is if your base starts to overheat. But there are mods that add devices to cool down air and water, and I'm like, I really want those mods. So I like Oxygen Not Included, but I don't like the stress of it without mods. It's really a stressful game and difficult, and I don't really feel like stressing myself out over it. So
man, you're still coming through my microphone, and I'm trying to figure out why. I changed my default settings too. I don't know why Discord is, or it's not even Discord, it's just my computer is throwing incoming call sounds through my microphone. And it's weird. It's actually bothering me that it doesn't seem to matter like what settings I change. It's just kind of doing it. Yeah.
It's interesting that you can make comments much longer on Twitch. I noticed Buck had made a comment on Twitch that didn't fully come through on YouTube.
Yeah.
But Twitch lets you make longer comments. How did you know it was? Are you actually hearing the echo?
No, I'm not hearing it, but I can pull up my sound devices and it shows me where sounds are going, so I'm not talking, and I'm seeing the bar rising up when you're talking.
That's weird.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that.
So in the meantime, how come you never told me about RenPy?
About what?
Have you heard of RenPy? RenPy. RenPy?
RenPy.
You never heard of this?
How's it spelled?
RenPy. REN''PY. It's a visual novel maker that's free.
Oh, well, I don't think I knew about it.
Guess who used RenPy to make their visual novel?
Who?
Doki Doki Literature Club was
Okay.
made in
That makes
RenPy.
sense. Yeah, no, I never heard of it. I'm sure at the
really.
beginning of Doki Doki it even shows it in the credits or whatever, but I hardly ever pay attention to the opening of games like that.
Yeah. Open source and free for commercial use.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I might try it, see if it's how it's different from Visual Novel Maker, but especially since it's free.
Yeah.
I don't know what it outputs to. That's my only. I gotta look at that. If it'll output to only desktop or if it'll do consoles, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the way, you know how I found it? I mentioned doing a visual novel on Minds in the indie game development group on Minds, and someone mentioned, "Hey, I'm doing a visual novel in RenPy." What the hell?
Yeah.
Never heard of that. I guess it's RenPy because it uses Python.
That makes sense.
Well, that's interesting. So I would have to learn Python if I want to do anything, even remotely complicated. I'd have to do it in Python. Well, it might be a good excuse to learn Python.
Well, yeah, I think at this point, everything's just telling you need to learn Python.
I think so. Yeah, what was the other thing?
I'm trying to remember. What was the other thing that I need to learn? If you need to ever do like an extension for a browser, you kind of need to know Python.
That's what we were talking about. Yeah.
Blender came up when you were talking about potentially using a video editor, and Blender uses Python. Basically, everything on the internet uses Python.
Yeah. This is weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I think we were talking about another thing recently, too, that needed Python. Also, even basically, all the macros in Roll20. They're Java Python style macros and stuff. Like, everything just uses this language. It's just what people use for stuff.
Yeah. Kind of like the way JavaScript used to be, where JavaScript was everywhere, and now Python seems to be everywhere. Interestingly, I first heard of Python in college. It's been around forever. Yeah. And a computer science graduate student showed it to me, and I was like, this was probably in 1998, I'm thinking. 97, 98. I'm like, God, what is this Python?
Right.
So I could have been using Python for the last 15 years, or 25 years, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, Python has been around for a long time. It's pretty easy too, right? Like, it's like if you pick up Java, you can pick up Python. If you know C#, you can pick up Python, no problem. I was getting the hang of it when I was doing it. I just kind of dropped it out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But it seems to be just a very, very simplified version of, a C derivative that everybody's been using anyway.
Yeah, kind of like JavaScript. But it's actually been around longer than JavaScript. It's been around since 1991. It's crazy. 30 years. 30 years of Python. GMT says, Marsupial, make the games by bashing ones and zeros in really quickly. It could be the first visual novel in Morse code.
Well, yeah, I mean, you technically can do that because Morse code and binary are effectively the same thing. I mean, they're different forms of binary, but they're both just binary codes. And everything is technically binary. It's just we've got compiled shortcuts to everything because going in root binary takes forever to get anything done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost the stream for a second there. That was weird. Blender uses Python too. Is that right, Mr. Squeakers?
So I brought that up. I saw he said it too.
Program the game in assembler. Oh yes, my absolute favorite class in college. With the professor who spoke in such an incredibly thick Indian accent that I could not understand, even when he wasn't even talking about assembler. He was talking about just anything. I could not understand a word that he said.
Yeah, let's just get a game kit, like a dev kit for an old system, and just make everything in assembly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome plan. Or COBOL. Or Snowball. Yeah. Also a language. Arduinos use Python.
Yeah.
Arduinos are IoT kits, right?
I actually don't know. That's a little out of my wheelhouse there.
Yeah, I've not fooled around with Arduinos, but I've fooled around with Intel IoT kits. COBOL is one of the few acronyms I can remember.
Yeah. Trying to think what else uses Python. There's a few things I keep running into that use Python.
My girlfriend was obsessed with IoT for a while. She was putting together things. She had a 3D printer, and she was doing all kinds of crazy stuff with IoT kits from Intel. Because Intel, we were both in the Innovators program at Intel, and they just send us shit. And most of it was IoT stuff. I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's some new IoT kit. She's like, give me that. I want to play with that. I even got her one year for her birthday. I got her a soldering iron, and she loved it. She was like, "This is exactly what I wanted." But she has actually. I've run the visual novel concept by her, and she's definitely open to helping with the script. So I might have to send her some early versions. Yeah. So I can't promise anything, but I'd certainly take a look at the script. Controller boards. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Arduinos. That's what they are. I say IoT because that's how I think of them.
Yeah.
Because I've been involved in that stuff. Wish I could focus on trying to learn languages. See, I can't learn foreign languages, but I can learn programming languages.
I wish I could figure out why I'm getting this echo.
Yeah, I'll just keep vamping while you're working on it.
No, I think I've kind of just given up on it right now because I'm gonna have to actually go and troubleshoot this, and I'm not gonna do that while we're streaming.
So weird.
Yeah. I don't know. I had it fixed at one point, and then it just started doing it again. I don't know what's causing it.
Odd.
Yeah.
I had some weird trouble with my sound mixer, which was apparently fixed by me getting a solid state hard drive. I don't know exactly. I'm guessing something was taking too long and it would just crash. I don't know, but
yeah.
I can now easily bring up my sound mixer every single time, whereas before, half the time.
The weird part is, and why I can't figure out why it's coming through, is because you don't even come through at full volume through my microphone, right? You come through at reduced volume, and
it's almost like I'm coming through a speaker, but I'm not. I'm coming through your headphones.
Yeah. And I don't know what that
And
is.
your headphones don't have a speaker built in or anything like that?
No, my headphones can get pretty loud. I don't know if they're like so loud that my microphone is picking it up, but I'm also pretty far from my microphone. And part of it could be the gain on this microphone is broken, basically. It's so old. I may just need to get a new microphone, which is on my grocery list of things to replace. Because the gain is as low as it goes, and it's still loud. And it can get even higher. It's like 5 going on 6 years old now. And it's
all right, what's a good microphone?
Dragged around. A good microphone? Ugh.
I know like Blue Yetis are all the rage.
Well, that's what I have is a Blue Yeti, but it's an old Blue Yeti. I think just to be cost effective without having to worry, or not even just cost effective, but what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for space effective. Because to get a good microphone, you have to get a phantom power unit, like a small mixer, and an actual auxiliary mic. But if you're just going for like a USB microphone, then the Yeti is one of the better options you can pick.
Yeah. Are there? So, gosh, maybe I should get one, because I've always wanted, like, I don't know how good my audio is. I feel like it's not great with the, I'm using the microphone on my camera, but damn, a Yeti is only $130. I could totally get that.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's on my shopping list to get a new one.
Yeah. Although, actually, no, it looks like the higher quality, like there's the Yeti I guess Pro. The Yeti. Well, there's a Yeti caster, which has like a boom and comes in from above. That's $200. It's still doable for me, I think. If I'm gonna stream more, and I have been streaming more, maybe I should invest in that.
And one of the things that got me too is like I'm looking at my OBS at first, and I keep seeing the bar go up, and I keep thinking, oh, well, that's not him talking, that's just the music in the background. And then I go and look over at Mixer, and I realize, oh, no, the only music that the audience is hearing is the Desktop 2 audio, because I completely forgot to send the music through so you could hear it too. So it's like, oh, that must be his voice again. And then I'm looking at the my Mixer too, and when you're talking, I see it going up on my microphone.
Oh, damn, the Yeti caster is out of stock?
Yeah.
Bastards. Everything's out of stock. God damn.
Yeah. And it's at this point too, it's like my headphones get really loud, but my hearing is not as good as it used to be, so I actually have to turn my headphones up to actually hear anything. So between that and how busted the gain is on my microphone, the sound coming through may actually not be anything due to my system, and it might actually just be my microphone picking up the sound from my headphones.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
Oh, they have them at Best Buy.
I turned my headphones down a little bit. I could still hear you. Hopefully that fixes some of the problem. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I'm obsessing over microphones.
I was a little bit, because it is something I need to replace. Like, I sound fine at this distance, projecting a little, right? But this is not how far you should be from a microphone when the gain is turned all the way down. And because of that, I can't do fine recording. And also, it distorts the sound of my voice. So, like, the closer and closer I get, this is about how far you should be from the microphone, and I'm actually talking kind of quiet right now. Because you should be roughly about this distance from a microphone when doing recording. Right? And if I try to sing or talk at a normal volume next to the microphone where I should be about that distance away, I start hearing it artifact and stuff, because the gain is it just peaks. At a normal volume, it peaks when I'm the distance I'm supposed to be. It's like, yeah, that's a sign that I need a new microphone. It's just too old and it's been dragged around too much.
Would you recommend, if I get a microphone, to get a, what do you call it, a pop filter?
It depends on the microphone you get. The Yeti, it does have a normal metal filtering around it, but it's not that good. So if you get a Yeti and you... Like, I don't actually need the pop filter on this anymore because the gain's so high, and I am facing away from the microphone, so it's not going to get any pops anyway, right? But if you are normal distance from a microphone, if you're talking directly into it, and it doesn't have, like, say, a foam filter naturally around it, you've seen microphones with the foam on it.
Yeah.
The foam filter takes care of pops already. If you don't have a foam filter, then yes, I would recommend getting a pop filter. But that's only if you're going to talk directly into it, so it can stop them pops.
Yeah. I can't tell if it has some sort of ball. I don't know. It says, oh,
yes, it's dinner time. Yeah, okay. So, pop filters are only important if you're actually probably going to be doing narration, voice acting, singing, anything that involves being that close to the microphone. If you're just gaming, you don't really need a pop filter. Because your microphone, if you're gaming, it's like, say you're like here next to your computer. Your microphone's probably going to be like that far away from you. You're probably not going to have it like right in front of you, talking into it as you're gaming. Especially if you're using webcam, because then it would just be like blocking part of the view of your webcam if it was right in front of you. Yeah. But you said you might want to start doing like tutorial stuff. And if you want to do tutorial
well, kind of, because I mean, I kind of want to do stuff on mines to start with, because I keep discovering stuff, and then I see people asking questions, and I'm like, yes, you can do that, or here's that. I'm thinking to myself, I know how to do that. I figured it out, or somebody told me, like the notifications page. I had no idea that existed until yesterday.
I like how they break down the notifications too. Like even in the drop down, there's little tabs at the top, and so you can be like, oh, here's the people subscribing to me, here reminds of my stuff and stuff like that. But then you click to see more, and they do all of it on its own page. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, speaking of mines, I've been having trouble uploading images.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work for a few days there again, and now it's stopped working again. Well, Michael Bobman. Who is Michael Bobman? I don't know. He, some guy who's been responding to me in the help and support group, has said it might be Canary that's having the problem.
I think that might have something to do with it. Because I'm only on Canary on the website, right? So I've been uploading pictures through my phone and the phone app, which the phone app, even though my account is Canary, the app isn't, right? And I've had no problems uploading pictures on my phone app. Yeah.
Yeah,
so very much
that's a good
Canary.
point.
Yeah.
I've never had trouble with the phone app, but if you're signed up for does the phone app not do Canary or something?
Yeah, I don't think Canary applies to the phone app right now.
Okay.
I think it's just the dev team are the ones testing stuff.
All right, so that would make sense.
Yeah. What is Canary? It's mine's beta program. Like when you opt into whatever website you're on, like, would you like to beta test our new features before other people do? That's all it is. You're the canary in the coal mine. That's where the name comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, and the main reason that I did Canary was to do the uploading from YouTube.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work on live streams anyway, or at least not. There may be a time limit. Like, I'll do a 2 hour. So it doesn't work on 2 hour live streams anyway. So
yeah, it hasn't uploaded a single one of the Octopath videos since I linked them up. But my Octopath videos are all at least 3 hours long, so...
Yeah. I think it only works in shorter videos.
That's fine. I've just been updating my Breath of the Wild series that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly the same time I stopped doing the Vomitorium the first time, so a lot of the newer listeners or watchers have probably never seen my Breath of the Wild playthrough, and eventually it'll all be online. But you can always just go over to youtube.com/themetalgodgame, and I've got a whole 53 episode playthrough of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Did my own layout for it, little neat. I've got milestones marked, so every time we get something like the Hylian Shield, Master Sword, any of the Divine Beasts, they kind of pop up on screen. And me and my brother just had a good time riffing while playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I should definitely do something like that with Breath of the Wild 2 when that comes out. I'll need to know what the milestones are, too. Like, I'll have to make a new layout for it. I think the only reason I was able to do that with the first Breath of the Wild so well is because, having already played it before I did the Let's Play with my brother, I got to know what all the milestones were ahead of time. And I don't know if I want to go into 2 blind. In Twitch, I don't care what you have to say about that. Or if I want to play it first and then go in with my brother, not knowing what we're doing like he did last time.
I've been occasionally dipping into playing more Breath of the Wild myself.
Oh yeah.
Since I had to start all over.
Oh, I'd have to do that again.
And I'm remembering all of the damn grinding that you have to do to get materials if you want to upgrade all your armor.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
My mom actually got mad at me recently because I think it was on hers. It was like a year ago. She my user was on her Switch a while back, and it was my default device. I had my user on several Switches, but my default one was on hers, so she got to use my DLC. And then I went away from that, and I switched my default to another one, and she lost access to it, and then she had to go and buy the DLC for Breath of the Wild herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like obsessed with that game. She played way too much of it. I wouldn't say there's too much of playing that game, but she played too much for never getting good at it.
Yeah.
And then she got mad when she could no longer play the DLC stuff. It's like, I have to go buy it myself. Yeah, because then it was on my brother's, because we were doing stuff together for a while. And I went to go play Smash with him, because, I've got my own now. And I'm like, why are you missing this character? It's like, oh, because I never bought it. You bought it. It's like, oh, yeah. So he has all but one character because he never went back and bought the one that I did at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Nobody plays him anyway. Who was it? I'm trying to think. Was it Hero? I think it might have been Hero was the one that I bought. Nobody in our group plays Hero anyway.
Mm-hmm. Hero?
Yeah, the Dragon Quest Hero.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never played that.
Yeah. DLC... what was it? Number 3, I think? Was it the middle DLC was Hero? But it's just the Dragon Quest Hero, and all of its 8 outfits are 8 different Dragon Quest outfits. Like, so 8 different heroes from the Dragon Quest line.
Well, holy crap, that worked.
Yeah.
I turned off Canary and image upload is fixed.
Oh, Buck says, fuck you, I play Hero sometimes. Yeah, in the once in a blue moon that you even play Smash. I think you should change your statement to, fuck you, I play Smash sometimes. In fact, my brother was thinking of going to Free Play with a group recently, because Free Play is one of the places that never shut down, and Yeah, it was one of the few places that never shut down. Free Play is a barcade that's got like a ton of old classic arcade units in it, and you just pay $10 at the door and everything's free. You just go up, you hit the start button, everything's set to Free Play. And they took out like half their machines so that there's good space between the units. Anybody who comes in as a group can play together because they just have the excuse like, oh, well, these people live together, right? But I told them I only want to go if we get a good group of people, because the only person I ever go to Free Play with is Buck, and we don't enjoy playing the same games. And if I can't play against randos because of the way the group rules are, I can't go and enjoy playing fighting games. I'm just going to sit there playing against the arcade over and over again.
Oh, I gotta remember. Gotta remember to mark stuff as NSFW.
Yeah. So that's because I can only play with two groups of sweaty tryhards.
So yes, I can post images to mines once again.
Yeah.
Huzzah. Man, why does my playback keep failing?
I don't know. Everything seems fine on my end this time.
Yeah. I think my laptop keeps losing internet. It's weird.
Is this telling me I'm wrong about that? Yeah, you're wrong about that. Because really, the only group that plays like that is specifically me and my brothers. If you wanted to play Smash with Forest Group, he's good at the game, but he actually prefers playing with like all the items on and stuff. I'm the one that forces him to play with items off. Which, you know, I'll play with items on, but I won't do a one-on-one with items on, right? Like, if we're doing a free-for-all with 4 people or more, sure. You know, we're playing a party game at that point. If I'm doing a one-on-one with somebody, I want to play a fighting game. And Smash can very easily be a fighting game when you turn the items off.
Those items just make it more random and unfair?
Yeah, it's more chaotic. Skill still matters, but it matters less because some items, if the person gets lucky and picks it up, they can easily just get a stock like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some characters are better with items on, some are better with items off. And some characters just have really good like item throw animations and stuff like that. It's a different dynamic to gameplay altogether.
I see.
Yeah, and the items are fun. I don't like them for a one-on-one situation. If we're doing a free-for-all, that's fine. I also just don't like 3-man in general. Because 3 always ends up monkey in the middle no matter what. Even like other odd numbers, now that you can play with more than 4 people, are fine. But 3 is just awful. It is the worst way to play Smash is 3 people.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of experience with that growing up, having 2 brothers, and we ended up playing 3-man Smash a lot. It pretty much just ends up monkey in the middle until it comes down to a 1v1 anyway. And even if you go the higher numbers, at some point there will be a 3-man, but the dynamic's so different because there's at least 2 1v1s going on, or all 4 people are mixing with each other, or so on and so forth, that the stocks will be uneven, percentages will be uneven. It's just a different game. It's either play one-on-one, 4-player free-for-all, or higher. Just skip the 3-man Smash altogether. Don't play that way.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm turning on my video. I'll just be a second.
Yeah. Someone gets the hammer, it's over for everyone else on some maps. In the old games, before like every character had a counter, hammer actually kind of sucks now. Because the hammer animation's so predictable that you could just like literally jump into it with a counter. And then while the person's in tumble, the hammer doesn't have a hitbox. So you could just juggle them until they're dead. And you know, you don't have a double jump or whatever. You just go into free fall with the hammer. Like, the hammer is actually one of the worst items you can pick up in the game right now, when there's so many other items in Ultimate that could basically kill a person right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played on the GameCube, and it was doom. Yeah, because on the GameCube, there was, like, what, 3 characters with a counter, I think? There was Peach had a counter, and both Fire Emblem characters had a counter. That's it. Hammer was fine on the GameCube. Now that half the roster has counters, it's like, what's the point of this item?
You can basically cancel it out.
Basically, yeah. There's a few items like that. There's like the home run bat is a much better item, because at least you can fake people out while holding the home run bat. It's like still playing a normal character. You can use your special moves. You can move normally. You do a setup, and you just replace your smash attack with the home run bat. Way better item. Plus, if you do manage to hit somebody with it, they could reflect it or they could catch it. But if they're in the middle of, like, hit stun, you throw the bat, like, kills people just from being thrown at. That's one way we actually used to play it. Me and my brother, we would turn on, like, moderate items, so the spawn rate was, like, not bad. And most of the time, we wouldn't even use the items as intended. We would use them as, like, juggling devices. Throw somebody off the edge and then nail them with the item to try to hit them out of the blast zone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Items actually used to be tournament legal at one point, too. Like, way back in 2006, I think. It was like, the whole debate over whether items should be legal or not was like an East Coast, West Coast thing. And, yeah. Eventually, they're like, no, it's more fair with the items off. If we're doing this at a competitive level. If you want to have fun with your friends, who cares? But if we're playing this in a competitive way, it is more skill dependent without the items.
I still don't understand this game.
Yeah.
What is the point? I mean, the whole goal is to knock someone off, right?
Yes.
So what is the point of damage? What is the point of doing damage?
Damage increases knockback. Right?
Okay.
So, or launch, as they call it in that game. So the higher their percentage, the easier it is to launch them, which makes it easier to get them through the blast zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But theoretically, someone with 99% damage, like higher numbers are worse, right?
Yes.
If your number is higher,
the percentage. Yeah, since it's a knockback scaler.
Yeah. So I mean, like someone with 99% could knock off someone with 0% damage.
Yeah, it's possible. I've seen people die at 0% in 4 specifically, because Corrin's counter was so broken that if Corrin had like 100% and the person came up and then hit Corrin and then got countered, they would just die. Yeah. Getting to 300% is very nerve-wracking, Mr. Squeakers. Yeah. That's one of the best stages is Hyrule Temple, right? Not just because it's a Zelda stage, but there's an area in it that everybody has dubbed the Hyrule Fight Club. And basically what it is it's underground, and you go down here, there's a path that kind of leads into it, very small opening. Underneath it, another path that leads out, very small opening. A platform, a ceiling, and then kind of like an opening off to the side. And in the game, you can tech, right? Like with most fighting games, you can tech. But and specifically in this case, when you hit a wall or a ceiling or floor, you can hit the shield button, and it'll cancel your momentum and reset you, right? So when you're in here, at like you can live past 300%, because everything that's hitting you, as long as it doesn't send you directly out through the side, is hitting a floor or a wall or a ceiling, and you can just tech, and you're in there sometimes up to 500%. They call it the Hyrule Fight Club.
Yeah, they're just wailing on each other.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people go there to practice teching, too. Because, me and my brother used to do it. You'd put 99 lives on. You'd go down there, and you'd just spend an hour beating the crud out of each other at higher percentages and just practicing shielding the moment you hit the wall to stop your momentum.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Smash becomes a very intense game, like really quickly too.
Yeah.
Ew. Okay. So we should probably talk about stuff. We went this long into the podcast without actually harping on like a single topic.
Is what's it called? Redo of Healer on your list?
It wasn't. I might put it on. There's another one that just got on my list from a single scene that somebody posted, and it was called "The Protagonist Is," or no, is it the protagonist or the hero? I think it's the hero is overpowered, but overly cautious. So it's a story about a guy who's like he's the really really powerful dude, but he doesn't take any of the risks or anything like that. And the one scene that was sent to me, or it wasn't sent to me, I was watching This Week in Stupid. With V. Monroe, and he put the scene in there, and this lady's like mad at the protagonist, and she goes up to do like the classic anime trope where like the woman slaps the guy, and he just like immediately just like blocks it and slaps her in the face and sends her flying to the other side of the room, which is like complete subversion of the trope. You never see that happen in anime. Usually the guy, just to show how tough he is, will like take it and let the woman slap him. But he's like, no, just block slap. And even one of the other characters freaks out. It's like, I don't care if that's like a reflexive action that is like drilled into you. You don't hit a woman like that. And he's just like nonchalantly cool and not saying anything or whatever. Calling her weak, really, because it was on her that her soldiers died. And it's like, just that scene is like, I want to watch this now. This has gotten me interested in this show. True gender equality. We slap the women too.
Yeah. What's the name of the show?
The hero is overpowered, but overly cautious.
Okay. Cautious Hero.
Also called Cautious Hero, yeah.
That is a very long name.
Yeah, I think Cautious Hero is the, I guess, anglicized name, the English name. But if you translate the Japanese name, that's the longer one.
So, where can it be viewed?
I don't know. That's not usually something I worry about. Yar.
But, okay.
Legally, I could not tell you where to view it.
Well, that's okay. So I'm looking for it. For it. See, mine can be viewed on YouTube for free.
Yeah, it can.
See, I can't. Well, all right. So it's not on the site that I usually go to.
Yeah.
But the opening theme is on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's not been dubbed yet either, which is fine. Especially with the companies that have been getting dubs, I'm kind of in the mindset of sticking to subs for the most part anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Dubs are just convenient because it's easier to work on stuff while you're watching it because you don't have to pay attention to the words.
Yeah. Well, Redo is subbed.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I was able to watch that the other night. I had to stop doing other things so that I could read the screen, but...
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, I have really good, like, peripheral vision. So I can work on something and see everything that's going on in another screen next to me. But I can't do that and read the words on the screen because I actually have to have, like, the center of my vision on the screen to use my peripheral to read the words.
Right.
Yeah. But I never got, like, people always complain, it's like, I'm always looking at the words. I can't see what the characters are actually doing. It's like, how? Is that a problem? just train yourself to be able to read it at the bottom of your vision. Everybody else does.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
I think playing video games helps. Because you're used to looking at words on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have a problem if I'm, I don't know, if I'm doing something else, it's hard to stop everything.
That's the real problem. Your vision is centered somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah. I found it's easier for me to watch a sub show if I'm like in bed or going to bed or something, but I'm not really tired yet, because then I can sort of stop doing other things.
Yeah, it's the only thing that you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy. Have you watched it yet? Redo?
What? No, I did. I haven't.
Well, I did enjoy the first 2 episodes of Redo. I guess it's Redo of Healer, which is a weird title. Makes sense when you find out what it's about. I don't quite understand how this guy's healing power seems to give him just godlike powers to do anything. Although I guess no. I was thinking it's not that he uses. So for anyone who's not aware, there's a series called Redo of Healer. There's 2 episodes out on YouTube, and it's about it's kind of like an RPG party, right? Yeah. And there's everyone has a role, and this one guy is the healer, and he's absolutely abused. This is totally NSFW for adults only.
Like most good anime is.
Yeah. So he's abused in just ridiculous ways so that they can just use him as a healer. So here's the thing. His healing power has a downside. When he heals someone, he also reads their mind. And he basically feels all of the horrible things that they've felt throughout their entire life. Like he relives their entire life, I guess specifically the bad parts.
That seems a little extensive. I can understand if it was feeling the trauma of whatever damage he's healing.
Yeah.
I guess if he's accidentally healing them all the way, he has no control over it, any problem, then that means he'd have to feel all the damage of everything that's ever happened. I could kind of see that. It just making it non-specific is weird.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and rewatch, but I feel like the first time that he heals someone, he sees all this trauma that they went through throughout their whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is I don't understand that, but whatever. That's the thing. That's the cross to bear.
Do they seem less traumatized people afterwards too? Is he accidentally healing that stuff?
It's not clear. I guess. Sort of. But so he can't control it. So you can't be well, I'm going to heal and not do that. So anyway, the first time he heals someone, it's horrible. It's like torture for him. He heals them, but he's like a blubbering mess. I think he actually even passes out, he faints from the trauma. So then he's like, I'm not going to do that again. But they're like, well, we need a healer, so fuck you. And they put him in a dungeon, and they get him addicted to drugs, and then randomly some of the people in his party rape him. Some of the men, they're just torturing him, and then eventually he gets addicted to these drugs, and then basically he'll do whatever they want so that they'll to give him the drugs.
Just like a prostitute.
Yeah. So
I guess in some ways the healer of your team is often like a prostitute.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're just and they treat him like a dog. The leader of the party is this woman who's a paladin.
Yeah.
And she comes into his cell and kicks him in the balls, and it beats him up, and then she pours the drugs on the floor so he has to lick it up. like it's a liquid, and he has to lick it up off the floor. So she's treating him like a dog. And then, so basically he cooked up this plan. I guess there's this creature or magical person that has like this crystal, and they're trying to defeat it. Well, he basically breaks free. I guess he becomes immune to the drugs, so that he is able to hatch this plan to defeat this monster himself, so that he can claim this crystal, which can allow him to go back in time. So, so he does that, and I guess so. Here's the other thing: his healing can also reverse heal. So basically, what the healing is remaking someone's body, right? Like it can remake the body all healed, or he can like remake someone's body so that they're crippled.
Yeah.
So he uses that to defeat this monster, gets this crystal, goes back in time, and he knows what's going to happen. So he basically exacts his revenge, specifically against this woman.
Yeah.
And he like pre-plans the whole drugs thing, and like makes himself immune to these drugs, or immune faster anyway. Like he still becomes, it's weird, he still becomes addicted, but not for less amount of time. So then he's able to then he then is able to like change his own face through his healing power to look like someone else, so that he can get this woman alone, and then basically he cripples her and rapes her, and then he uses his power to erase her memory and turn her into a different person, and like make her his sex slave.
You know what?
So she does.
It's dark. Still not as dark as Berserk, but pretty dark.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but yeah, there's all these little. So if you see, like, I've already seen some memes about it. If you see like somebody holding up a hot poker to a woman, that was basically, he gave her a choice. So I mean, is it really rape? Because he gave her a choice. I can either, put this in you, or put me in you.
Yes, I believe that is a form of extortion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he holds this hot poker up to her, and he's like, "You want this in you instead?" She's like, "No." So
yeah,
it's pretty brutal. But actually, it's interesting is that at least the version on YouTube, I don't know if there is another version, it's pretty well censored.
Well, I mean, that's really Japanese in general. Like,
okay,
they have to censor almost everything over there, like in general. I don't know if you've ever watched like some full-blown hentai, but like genitalia, nipples, and stuff like that have to be censored. Certain acts they just kind of like blight out with light and stuff like that. They have heavy censorship rules.
Yeah, so everything's blocked out. I mean, there's like completely just black or white, just block. Like not even pixelated. It's just nothing's there. So it doesn't actually show anything.
There might be an uncensored version, though. Not legally, but a lot of these studios and stuff will leak out uncensored versions of their properties, because that's the only way they can get them out.
Not that I care. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you can tell what's happening, and they tell you what's happening, so I can find anime titty anywhere.
Well, basically, though, the way they censor it often makes a difference from whether it is still anime or a hentai, right? So if they just block things out, it kind of passes like, this is anime. The intent of this is not the sexual act, it's just a part of the story. If they just pixelate things, they're like, this is intended to be a sexual piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, unless they draw them already censored.
Yeah, so I don't know. But it's dark. It's interesting. But there is this intriguing... So he's trying to figure out who this monster is that he defeats in the first episode. Like, he's like, I'm going to go to find out who this is, because it was like a monster with this girl inside, and he was trying to just defeat the monster, but in doing so he discovered there's like this girl inside of it, and so he's trying to figure out what's the deal with her.
Yeah.
What's the story here? So if you can get past the extreme violence and trauma, there's potentially an interesting story there.
Yeah. Well, actually, Squeaker saying that too reminds me of just like how far the censorship goes. You ever watch like a kid's anime and you realize any guy that doesn't have a shirt on has no nipples, right? They're just drawn without nipples because even men's nipples need to be censored out most of the time. And you go and watch Ranma 1/2, which is shonen. It is the show was designed for young men, young boys, but Ranma, in the girl form, bears her chest quite a bit. Not like to flash people, it's just often without a shirt on. Being a guy has no sense of decency of covering up her breasts or anything like that. And you'll notice, as a girl, Ranma never has nipples. Like, ever. Despite the fact that you just see these tits, like, bouncing around as she's running. Yeah. And this is just a very common thing. It's like, yeah, you can show breasts all you want as long as they don't have nipples on them.
Weird.
Yeah. That's the Japanese for you.
Mm-hmm. So, Cautious Hero, or something along those lines.
Yeah, the longer one was the hero is overpowered but overly cautious. But yeah, Cautious Hero. That's another one that it's on my list. My list is getting too long, though. That's the problem. I haven't caught up with almost anything.
Yeah, I just recently watched season 3 of One Punch Man.
Yeah.
And I am kind of chomping at the bit to get the next installment of Attack on Titan. When is that coming out?
We're season 2 of One Punch Man.
Season 2, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We haven't had 3 yet. I'm still waiting
Okay.
for 3. I want 3 so bad. They're looking for another studio. Again. But my hope from the rumor is that they're not looking for a third studio. They're trying to get back to Studio Madhouse, who is the one who did the first season. And I hope that's actually the case, because they did wonderful animation. I don't know why they left her in the first place. Maybe budget problems or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, why do they switch studio?
But if not, they might be going to a third studio. So who knows what the animation's going to look like for season 3.
Well, so, like, Attack on Titan was the same way. They have a different studio for this latest season.
There's also been the delay, too, like why it's been taking so long.
The delay on which one?
Attack on Titan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be out last season.
Yeah, but, like, at the end of season 1, there was a huge delay.
Yeah.
Until season. Like, they've been plagued with these really long delays, like multi-year sometimes.
This is actually just becoming a problem in Japan, period. Right? Like, so there's certain studios that are long-term partnership with certain properties, right? Like Toei. Toei's like the biggest studio in Japan. You know them for doing Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, a bunch of other properties. And when they put something out, it comes out regularly because they've just got the budget to keep putting the things out, and they're part owners in like the properties that they do. But then you get like these smaller stuff, even like other things maybe partnered with Shonen Jump, like One Punch Man is, that they just don't go to Toei. They go with other studios, and there become budget problems or all kinds of different conflicts. And if you're not like one of like 3 big studios in Japan, almost everything seems to have these delays and stuff. Because there's too much anime out there. And there's like a limited number of resources of the studios that can work on all of this anime. They've become too big for themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's also weird that, you know, one series would have multiple studios, because, like, yeah, doesn't the animation then change from season to season?
It can. It depends though, right? So there are very few palettes in anime, right? Like even again in different studios, you watch a lot of anime, and depending on the tone they're trying to express with it, usually by genre, you'll see like the same color palettes across different cartoons, right? And that's just because of industry standards. So, and the design of the show will often reflect the manga that it came from, if it came from a manga. So you'll see differences in animation, like effects or the quality of animation, but if you're not paying attention, your average person may not even notice that a different studio was doing it, because they're emulating the style from the comic and they're using the same color palettes.
Yeah.
And they're just more of a standardized industry than, say, animation is over here.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I guess, well, I don't know. I guess it's more assembly line than.
Yeah. But, you know, there's also just been a lot of problems with the animation industry in Japan lately, too. Like, you remember, what was it, last year or the year before that? I think it was the year before that. I think it was before the whole COVID thing. There was one of their major studios caught fire. I think it was it a terrorist attack? Not like political terrorism or something. It was like some disgruntled employer or something like that. But one of the buildings was arsonist. It was definitely arsonry. Set it on fire. A lot of stuff was lost. And there've been all kinds of layoffs, and like studios in Japan are having problems right now. And then COVID obviously didn't help because they do all their work in person, even though almost everything's digital these days, and you could probably work from home. We've had previous discussions about how Japan's infrastructure was not set up for everybody to work from home.
Yeah.
And there's just all kinds of things, especially this current last couple of years, that have been delaying stuff for every show.
Mm-hmm.
They've been on minimal workforce.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
GMT was confused and wondered if Japanese men just don't have nipples.
Yeah, no, it's just it's part of their censorship stuff.
Yeah. I love how she also pointed out that One Punch Man season 1 was awesome and it looks gorgeous on Blu-ray. Yeah, I love how in One Punch Man, like they'll zoom in on a character and it looks like a completely different style, but it's all very detailed.
Yeah.
Zoom out.
That happens in the manga too. Like they're just emulating the manga on that, and part of that is to poke fun at the original story, because before One Punch Man was a manga, it was a webcomic drawn by One, who also does Mob Psycho 100, and One's style. You ever see the one kind of zoom in of Saitama go like where he looks like a cartoon and he's going okay?
Yeah.
Right. That is closer to One style. Just the lines are a little more squiggly. They're less refined. And One, just look at the webcomic. Very cartoony. Very art drawn by somebody who's not an artist. Great, though. I love the webcomic. I'm ahead of the manga because of the webcomic, but I'm not caught up. I need to go back and catch up on everything. But the show, and even the manga itself, but the show specifically, because it gets to derive a step further, will combine the studio style that is doing the anime to look like the manga style, but also throws in the webcomic stuff from time to time, too. So there's like a whole mix of, this all feels appropriate because of the story being told, and the manga did the same thing, but this mesh of fantasy, I guess. It's all fantastic, right? Because even the hyper-realism is a fantastic thing that you wouldn't get in most other shows, and the lack of realism is a fantastic thing you wouldn't get in most other programs. Like, you'll have, they're similar to the Japanese do this with the chibi-fying in the first place. You know, you'll have like a normal show, and then all of a sudden a character's angry, and there'll be like a chibi version of them, and stuff like that. It's something that program does a bit better than others because of the nature of the show.
Yeah.
Especially with Tatsumaki. Because Tatsumaki, Twisted Tornado, is already like so small as it is, so whenever she gets angry and they just draw like a chibi version of her, it's like the most fitting thing in the world. Her sister, though, Fubuki. So you watched all of season 2, so you've met Fubuki. Waifu of the year right there.
Yeah, but she's a bully.
Oh, she has a good character arc. Trust me, you'll like her more the series goes on. And she has a really good character arc. Like I said, I'm not caught up with the webcomic. It looks like they're kind of trying to set her up with Saitama.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to end up being a one-way relationship, which is kind of how it is now. She's starting to develop a crush for him. But Saitama's just like Saitama. He doesn't register like anything. He's almost autistic.
Yeah.
If you've noticed that, like, all he cares about is trying to be satisfied, right? And he's gotten so strong that fighting doesn't satisfy him. But that's actually not why he does the hero work. He's trying to, like, be satisfied through heroics. So even though all the battles end in one punch, it's the fact is, like, you know, maybe saving people will satisfy me. I'm a hero for fun. I'm trying to have fun by helping people. And I think a lot of people don't, like, understand Saitama. They think he's trying to find a fight that gives him that high, but that's not what he's looking for, you know? He's looking for that, that kind of, like, world-saving adrenaline. Not the fight itself, but it's like, I just saved literally everyone on the planet. That's the high he's looking for. He's a cool character. He's actually... So a lot of people think he's the least interesting character in the show, right? Like, oh, every other character is more interesting than Saitama. But I honestly think when you start breaking down the psychology of Saitama, how he got to where he is, and what he's looking for, he's actually the most interesting character in the show. But most people don't, they don't analyze a show like that. They're not looking into, like, what's going on in a show. They're just, like, eating popcorn and they're looking for entertainment. So they just kind of, like, they see the shallow parts of people's character arcs. And if you only look at every single character from a surface level, yeah, he's kind of the most boring character on the show. Like,
I think he's the most interesting. I was a little bit disappointed in season 2 because there wasn't enough Saitama for me.
Yeah.
Like, there was way more of him in season 1. And especially when he's, like, going up against Speed of Sound Sonic and those scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are
a lot of focus on Garu the monster in this one.
Which one?
Garu the monster. There's a lot of focus on him. He's the guy, the man who wants to be a monster.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to see more Saitama, and there just wasn't very much.
Yeah. Garu's a very interesting character because he's kind of the polar opposite of Saitama in almost every way. Like, he is, like, the antithesis to Saitama. And he has a very interesting arc too. I'm not going to spoil anything because it's past him in, like, the webcomic, but very interesting character. But yeah, you want more Saitama because the whole thing that he's doing, if they focus on it more, again, he's looking for different ways to be satisfied. One of the reasons, like, he's hanging out with King so much is because it turns out, hey, I found something that my powers do not instantly make me good at. I'm really bad at these video games, and this guy keeps crushing me. I want to get better at it. I'm actually finding something that's challenging me and making me more satisfied as a person, right? Yeah. But he's looking for other ways of doing that too. And he enters that martial arts tournament to be like, is martial arts a path for me? What is martial arts all about? I keep hearing about it. Bang keeps talking about it. Is this something that I should be doing? Or, so... he has a very interesting story arc going on, but you get very small glimpse of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really only liked the end.
Yeah.
The end of season 2 when he actually ends up fighting that one monster. I mean, it happens all off screen. All you see is, like, the monster's head just plops on the ground. But I was like, yes, more of that. That's what I want. But yeah, I mean, like, it was interesting. I mean, I guess, you know, I'm really just kind of looking for the action scenes. But, like, you know, the parts where he he does like the side steps that turn him into, he's so fast that you see multiple copies of him, and the whole fight against Boros, is that who it was? At the end of season 1?
Yeah. That was with
yeah,
the one eye, Boros.
Yeah, I found all of that very entertaining. But
it is very good journey of self-discovery. I agree, GMT.
Yeah. And the stuff with how Speed of Sound Sonic is so cocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always gets beaten.
Well, I also like that Saitama is not a genius at all. He's not stupid. I think people think he's stupid, but he's like average intelligence, so he doesn't necessarily understand what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is both correct and incorrect about how he got his powers. He doesn't understand how they work. Something about him, he broke the limiter inside of him, because like everyone's got a limiter, and that's why you plateau, right? Like your muscles have limits. You keep doing the same exercise over and over, it's not going to be really doing anything for you. You have to keep pushing through it. But because Saitama did something like psycho-consciously that broke the limiter that his body has, he literally can just do the same exercise every single day, and he will have the same increased incremental rate of improvement every single day. So when he says like that training regimen, that's really just like your average Olympic athlete's off-season regimen, right? The 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 pull-ups, 1 mile every day or whatever, right? This is what an Olympic athlete does in the off-season when they're not training. They're just trying to make sure they don't lose their shape between training seasons, right? And it's like, there's no way that would get you to where you are. But he doesn't plateau, right? It has to be something beyond physical. He, like, psycho-consciously broke his limiter. So by not plateauing, he will continuously increase this way. And then he's also doing other things than just exercising. So he's right, but he's also wrong because he doesn't understand that there's this thing missing from him that everybody else has. And you even start to see other people kind of pushing towards it. So there's a character that I don't know if you paid attention to. His name is Glasses. Do you remember when like the group of people were all trying to approach Garu at the same time? There was like a whole like A-class heroes, and there's this one guy who actually even kind of looks like what Saitama looked like before he started training, and he's got like a tracksuit on and a pair of glasses, and his hero's name is Glasses. If you pay like really close attention to him, he looks like his journey is almost the same as Saitama before he broke his limiter, and that he might be another character that is pushing towards that direction of breaking the limiter inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like really subtle stuff going on in the background that it's like, I would say obviously always take a break on it because there's other things to watch, and you don't ever want to watch a series back to back because you're not really looking at it with fresh eyes if you go right back into it again. But like a year later to go back and rewatch it, and you'll pick up on stuff you didn't the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, like he doesn't seem to have any powers.
Yeah.
Right? Glasses.
But he seems to be exceptionally good at whatever he's doing, like beyond somebody who doesn't have any base power.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And he even had he had like a flashback event. I don't think this was in the aired series, but I think it was added on the Blu-ray for it. Which you can only get the Japanese Blu-ray now. They still haven't dubbed it. But there's an extra scene where it shows them fighting a fan monster. Right? And it's a flashback. Glasses is there. His team basically gets wiped. He's the only one left, and then Saitama shows up. And even that kind of like alludes to him being a character that might be like Saitama later. Because Boros was also a character like Saitama, but he didn't continue training, right? He just went around fighting people, and Saitama never stopped his training. So when he fought Boros, he was exponentially stronger than him. He still had plenty room to spare even after a serious punch. And if Boros had continued training, that would have went completely differently, possibly.
Yeah.
And even like the supplementary material, like the guide that comes with the Blu-ray, even alludes to this too, like the official material that comes with it. There's something I both like and I dislike about the way Japan handles things, right? Because they have a different sense of what is and isn't canon than we do, as I've talked about several times on here. And they will explain things that weren't explained in the series through supplementary material, right? And they will consider that stuff canon. It's like, yeah, we're just explaining further the stuff that we didn't explain to you, and probably should have, but it just didn't work in the way we want to explain it. Well, here in the West, we're kind of like hard on, there's the Word of God. You can't ask an author, but pretty much if it's not explained in the source material, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And people, there's odds when people fight, especially when it comes to Japanese stories, because there'll be people who have that mentality of like, if it's not in the show, it doesn't matter. But then there's people like, well, the creator said that it matters, and this is how they handle things in Japan, so it matters. And there's people that will both accept and reject information that the other side won't use when it comes to like arguments and discussions on the internet. And it really depends on your mindset, you know? Of course, I get those type of arguments in mythology circles too, right? Because a lot of old religions, right, the stuff we consider myth now, they had various versions of the stories, stuff that we can still find surviving copies of, because people who lived in different areas or different time periods had different versions of the story. And you'll have like say Greek mythology, for example. Most people will go off of Hesiod. If it's in Hesiod's work, that is the canon. This is what we consider for Greek mythology. But when you consider a character like Heracles, or we call Hercules now, the Roman name, the guy has had so many different conflicting stories told about him throughout Greek myth that he is kind of an amalgam character, right? It's like, there's Hesiod's version of Heracles, and then there's every single version of Heracles that has been told throughout Greek history. And you get in these big conflicts of like, this is the truth. It's like, I don't know. I think the truth is somewhere between this mess of things that everybody commonly understood. And you get this kind of like clash of how people view things all the time in all kinds of different circles. And I think it is always appropriate to bring up mythology in that case, because a lot of the stories that we enjoy are basically just modern myths. And I think One Punch Man is a very good example of that. Yep.
Yes.
So, speaking of modern myths, have you seen the trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong that dropped earlier today?
I've not watched it.
It looks pretty good. I've already seen people complaining about it. I don't think their complaints are deserved, but it's the same thing I see every single time.
What's that?
And it's
King Kong's not big enough to fight Godzilla?
No, because in this one he is big enough. Like, especially when you see them like him throwing a punch and stuff, it's fine. No, it's the same complaint you see in every single giant monster film, kaiju film, and it's why is 80% of the film focusing on these random military people? Like, why is not most of the film the monsters? Which it's often not even 80%. I saw this complaint with Godzilla 2014, and I've compared the runtime to like cutting it down a percent of the film is the monster fight to classic Godzilla movies that everybody loves, and the monsters were on screen for about the same proportion of the film that as these classic films. In fact, King of Monsters, the monsters were on screen doing stuff in a higher proportion than many of these classic Godzilla films. They gave you like this huge rumble fest, and it even looks like about the same proportion from the trailer. if the trailer's anything to go by, you know how hard it is to trust trailers, but if they're heading in the same direction, it's like, no, the monster's going to have plenty of screen time. I don't know what the complaint is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's probably some some actually valid complaints, but the ones I'm harping on right now, Buck, are the ones that obviously have no ground, and people always spit out every single time these movies come out. Yeah.
Well, I had that problem with all the Transformers movies. Is that it focused too much on the people and not the Transformers? Well, of course, it screwed up the Transformers too. But
but Transformers is a more valid complaint, because if you go to the source material or the classic stuff people like, Transformers is like nearly 100% Transformers, because every single time a human is on screen in the old shows and stuff, a Transformer is usually also on screen with them. Yeah, there's almost never a time there isn't a Transformer on screen.
Yeah, I mean, the humans are just kind of window dressing. They're just,
and Transformers can talk, which, as Buck brings up, like, they can fucking talk. Godzilla and them, they can't. You actually need some type of narrative going on in this movie, and that's why it'll be like government scientists or these explorers or something like that stringing things together.
Oh, 11 from Stranger Things is in this?
Well, she was in the King of Monsters.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
I never saw it. Is this a sequel to King of Monsters?
Yeah. So it was Godzilla, then Kong Skull Island came out, then King of Monsters, where he fought Ghidorah, and Rodan was in it, so was Mothra, and then this follows up that. So in many ways, it's kind of more of a sequel to Kong, but it's a versus movie, so it's a sequel to both of those movies.
Okay.
And Kong took place in the past, so Kong actually took place before the first Godzilla movie. So he's had time to grow up, because he was just a little guy in that one. And this takes place after King of Monsters. Because Kong was just as they were pulling out of Nam, is when it takes place.
Okay. I obviously haven't been following this whole series. I didn't realize any of these movies were connected in any way.
Yeah. Even you see Monarch, which is a group in Kong, and hey, Buck. But yeah, so you even see like a Godzilla wider world connection right there in Kong Skull Island, like right off the bat.
So this is related to that one Godzilla movie where the guy's like, let them fight.
Yeah. The 2014 is the first movie, not canonically or chronologically, but produced in this series. It's the first one to be released, because Kong Skull Island is chronologically the first movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But they've basically been building up for Godzilla vs. Kong since they decided to put out a King Kong movie.
And none of this is related to the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie.
No. In fact, all the Japanese companies hate that so much that they actually bought the rights to that, renamed that monster Zilla, and had Godzilla kill him in a movie. Yeah.
Specifically, Godzilla Final Wars in 2004.
It's a pretty funny scene. I recommend not watching the movie, because I personally think Final Wars kind of sucks, but just going online and watching just that scene.
Honestly, I feel like Final Wars is the kind of movie most of these people complaining about would actually enjoy, because 90% of it is just Godzilla fighting monsters.
There's no plot to it, right? Like, there's some good scenes. If you want to watch just
there's
like, the good
a plot
scenes from
to it. It's just not a very good one, and mostly ripped off of Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah. But that's the problem. Like, it is mostly ripped off another movie, and you probably wouldn't even recognize it if you didn't notice that, because it's almost non-existent. Yeah, Skull Island is the Captain America First Avenger of the franchise. It came later, but it happens earlier.
Actually, ironically, Kong is old by human standards, but he's only just reached adulthood.
Yeah, you want to talk about him being old. Godzilla's way older. He's just been in hibernation for, like, what, millions of years or something like that?
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be one of those classic apex predators, according to the new version, the 2014 legendary version of Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You got well, she wasn't a Marvel alumni yet, but you have three Marvel alumni. No, four in Kong Skull Island. I forgot. John C. Reilly was in Guardians of the Galaxy. But you have Brie Larson, Tom Hiddleston, Sam Jackson, and John C. Reilly are all in Kong Skull Island. And they've all played characters in the Marvel movies. Now, Brie Larson hadn't yet, and she's probably the worst of the Marvel alumni. God, I hate her Captain Marvel so much.
Well, now I have to watch all these movies, so I haven't seen any of them. I don't think I haven't seen. What was it? Was it just called Godzilla?
Yeah, it was just Godzilla. 2014 is often what gets added to it.
Okay, and then there's Kong Skull Island. I've not seen that. And then there's King of Monsters, which it looks like in 2018. I haven't seen any of these. I've only seen the memes. They'll let them fight.
Yeah. Well, Buck, you know what I'm hoping for is the next Godzilla movie to be made after this one. If they're going in the same direction.
Yeah, he wants a Godzilla Raids Again
which is my
movie
favorite Godzilla
because
movie.
Godzilla Raids Again was the second Godzilla movie ever produced, the first one where he fought another kaiju, and the first appearance of the Metal's personal favorite monster, Anguirus.
Yeah, Anguirus is the best kaiju. Don't at me. He's also the... what was it Godzilla Destroy All Monsters? What was the name of the Godzilla fighting game on the GameCube?
Let's see, I'm trying to think.
It was like an arena.
I've got it around here somewhere, but it would take me too long to dig it out.
I would basically only play two characters in that game. I would play Anguirus and I'd play Rodan. And that's mostly Rodan just because he was so troll. That's the only reason I play him.
Oh, wait. It was Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, because they were ripping off of Smash Brothers with that added part.
Yeah. I loved that game, and I would just play Anguirus in it all the time. It's like, my favorite one's here. Let's go. And he would jump in the air, and he would just, like, shoot spikes and stuff at people. Oh, man. I just spilled some soda on me.
GMT says one of her favorite movies has nearly no plot.
I'm going to change my shirt. You're going to lose my camera for a second.
What movie is that? She keeps hoping for Mechagodzilla. So where does Mechagodzilla come from?
In the traditional Godzilla movies, he was an android created by aliens.
Specifically to fight Godzilla, or other reasons?
Pretty much. Basically, they wanted to take over the Earth. Godzilla was the most dangerous thing on the planet, so they created something that was strong enough to kill him, as well as portray as him for a short while to cause fear of, like, the one thing that could stop them.
Oh, well, you might be getting Mechagodzilla a lot sooner than you think.
Oh.
Especially if those spoiler leaks that you were talking about might be true.
Yeah, does anybody care if I mention that or not?
I don't think anybody cares. Let's go.
No, I don't.
Okay. So, it was spoiled quite a while ago that this coming movie, Kong vs. Godzilla, or Godzilla vs. Kong, I forgot which one comes first in the title, it was leaked quite a while ago that Mechagodzilla makes an appearance in this movie.
Yeah, it's Godzilla vs. Kong is the title.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the original Showa era movie, like, switches who's on the title, or who comes first in the title so many times between translations that it's hard to keep track, even with the new one.
Right? The trailer is kind of hinting at it, too. Because there's a line in it, too. It's like, Godzilla's attacking and we don't know why. And they're making it seem like Godzilla's not sticking to his MO and stuff. Like, if you're paying attention, it's like, this is probably Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually comes with the complaint I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Based on that, like, leak and what we're seeing in the trailer, I'm kind of worried that this means we might not get the real Godzilla in the film that much.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be Mechagodzilla till the end. Just disguised as Godzilla. That's what it's looking like, is what I'm thinking.
Or are you gonna be able to tell the difference?
No, he's got like a realistic outside at the moment.
Yeah, if it seems to be based a lot off of the original Terror of Mechagodzilla film, where Mechagodzilla first appears in an artificial skin to make himself look like Godzilla.
Yeah, and then after that didn't work, and he was revealed, they kind of just stopped putting an artificial skin on any version of Mechagodzilla. It was like, there's no point, especially if he's just going to be fighting Godzilla.
Yeah.
Well, more so just the second time he showed up in the Showa era. In the Heisei and Millennium eras, they didn't bother because his story was changed and he was created by humans to be a robot to defend them against Godzilla.
More organic, Washington GMT says. Yeah, I think a lot of proud robots who don't bother skinning themselves in a human suit don't like seeing it when robots try to disguise themselves as organic creatures. I can understand that.
So GMT says Shoot 'em Up is the movie she was referring to.
I've never seen Shoot 'em Up.
Me neither, but I'm seeing pictures of a guy carrying a baby holding a gun.
Yeah.
The baby's not holding the gun, the guy is.
Oh. The image in my
holding
head
a
just suddenly got
I don't know. If
lost.
the baby was holding the gun, that would be much more interesting.
Yeah, that's what caught my attention.
The guy with a carrot in his mouth holding a baby and a gun. How's that?
Man. I want the baby holding the gun.
Yeah, that might be more interesting.
Dual-wielding
Apparently
babies, dual-wielding guns. There, let's go.
That's right. Yeah, holding two babies.
That each have two pistols. Yeah.
That's right. Oh my god. Someone gets killed with a carrot in the first 5 minutes.
A carrot!
See, I'm also seeing an image of a guy with the parted legs of a woman. Presumably she's giving birth, and he's holding a gun up between her legs. So this is a fascinating looking movie.
It'd be worse if they turned around and underneath the sheet was a baby also holding a gun at him. Coming out of the womb. I guess we're in a standoff.
Oh my god.
This is the type of film I would want to write, though. Because I would take it in the most ridiculous direction possible. Babies with guns.
Well, apparently there's also a senator that's trying to harvest bone marrow from babies. Sounds like a crazy movie.
Bet he's not as cool as Senator Armstrong is, though. Which is a game I need to play on stream real soon.
He was a senator harvesting brains.
Yeah.
From children.
Buck gave me for Christmas is Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance. Or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. There's no solid in there. And have you played Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance or seen it, Marsupial?
No.
Okay, so it is the most over-the-top and ridiculous game. It's in the Metal Gear franchise, but you are playing as Raiden, right? And he is full cyborg now, as he's been going to in that direction for a while. And they have Senator Armstrong, who is harvesting brains and doing a bunch of other stuff. He's basically on that Make America Great Again kick, like years before, he took it from Reagan, before Trump had even brought it back. And he's going through this total supervillain plot to take over control and basically reshape America in the way that he wants to see it. And you have to take him down, and you even take down like several different Metal Gears too, just to show like how terrifying this plot is. It's like, wow, he just took down a Metal Gear Rex by himself, single-handedly. Mm-hmm. Things must be really getting out of hand now. And then, like, the final fight, you have to fight Armstrong, because it turns out... Oh, Marsupial dropped out. Hello.
Man, this Discord just crashed. That was weird.
Okay. Yeah, so you even have to fight Armstrong at the end, and he turns out to be, like, this really buff guy who's enhanced by nanomachines. Mm-hmm. Like, you even try to hit him, and you're like, what? Why did that not hit you? And he's like, nanomachines, son. And he's such a great villain. He's so hokey. And he seems like the type of guy that genuinely believes in what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to, Is that the carrot?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he thinks that you're finally getting it and you're coming to his side to... Like, he wants you to join his side because he thinks he's doing what's right. And the only way I can, like, describe him as a character is, like, if you crossed Hank Hill and Thanos together. Would you say that's an apt comparison, Travis?
You know what? I actually agree with that big time.
Yeah. If you mixed Hank Hill and Thanos together, that is the type of character that Senator Armstrong is.
Like, this guy is strong enough to literally throw a mountain at you, but he makes jokes that you shouldn't mess with him because he played college football.
Mm-hmm. I love Armstrong. He's such a good villain. He's in my, like, not top 10 villains of all time, but top 10 video game villains list. He's in there. He's probably, like, maybe number 7 or 8. I haven't quite decided, but he's in there. He's such a good villain. Thank Goes Hill.
Thank Goes Hill. Oh my god, I was just cracking up over GMT. Nearly no plot, but it feels like it needs less plot.
A good movie that has barely any plot, probably in the same realm, is Hobo with a Shotgun. Because, like, Hobo with a Shotgun's plot is, like, really just straightforward. Right? These people are corrupt. They're controlling town. Most people don't care. But then the hobo has a beef with them. And basically just goes on a killing spree. That's it. That's like the whole plot to the movie. I mean, he becomes fond of this one girl. Who ends up being the actual person who ends the conflict after he dies. But other than that, like... It is the most bare-bone plot to a movie, and you see this guy murdering people. Like, at one point, he loads up, like, stacks of quarters, like, when you do a roll, into a shotgun and just, like, shoots the quarters out at people in spread. It is crazy what happens in that movie.
Wait, which movie is this?
Hobo with a Shotgun.
Because I seem to... Was that in another movie?
Might
You
have
said that he puts quarters in a shotgun?
Yeah, it's not an uncommon thing.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah,
I
Rutger Hauer
can't think
at
of where
his
else.
best.
Yeah.
No, there's all kinds of like crazy things that happen in there. Like the girl that he becomes fond of, this young woman, she ends up like creating a shield out of a lawnmower. So like the top of the lawnmower, or whatever, is the shield base, and it's still got like the blade spinning on it. And it is a bloody movie. Like, it is great. It's dumb too. I think that's part of what makes it great.
Oh, Resident Evil Afterlife.
Yeah, that did happen in Afterlife, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that now.
I was like, I know I've seen something relatively recently where something like that happened.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember her loading up the coin case too, like that where you count it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I looked up like what was the deal with that, and there really wasn't a satisfying explanation as to why she was putting coins in a shotgun.
Yeah, no, there really isn't.
Except that
It's just something for a movie.
it was like something video games quarters something. You know, it was like, okay, fine. Yeah.
Sounds like one of those zombie games I play.
Wes Anderson's fan fiction starring his wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's like one of those ones where it makes all kinds of random rampage. You're thinking of Dead Rising, Mr. Squeakers. Which, I was playing that recently.
Yeah, I was playing the fourth one, which I'll admit, is the worst in the series, but the only one I really play because I can't stand games with time limits.
Yeah.
What else is going on? Just Squeakers. There you go, that one. I haven't even. It's funny we've had so much to talk about. I haven't even bothered looking up like game news or anything.
Yeah.
Did you want to touch on the Star Wars drama?
Their Star Wars drama? That was not even on my roster for things to talk about.
Star Wars.
So if you want.
Drama. Not really. There's not much to say. So they you know, this what's it called? High Republic?
Oh yeah, the High Republic.
Where they hired this incredibly blatant, just horrible, bigoted, racist woman. Just horrible. I mean, like the worst racist shit you've ever seen anyone say. And I'm not one to hand wring all that much.
Yeah.
But it's just like, why would you hire this woman? It's insane.
I don't know.
But anyway. And then people basically pushed back and said she's a fucking racist. And it's like, oh, you're bullying her. You're bullying her. Like, no, you're just calling her out for racist shit. And so, you know, I don't know. This whole thing. There's nothing to talk about.
I don't know. Am I like the only person that doesn't care if the people making media are racist? In either direction?
Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, I guess...
If there's the double standard.
I would, yeah, but also, like... Okay, but then if people... You know, I also don't care if people call a racist a racist. I don't
either, yeah. Like, if they could be fine, but it's like... See, I don't care. As long as, like, the media you're making isn't racist. Now, once you start doing stuff like that, then you're just like, okay, well, I don't want to watch this show. You guys can go broke for all I care, you know?
Yeah.
And you can start complaining about that. But it's like, outside of politics, and law enforcement and stuff, where things like that actually matter on the input of the person, right?
Yeah.
As
But
long as the product they're making doesn't reflect their own opinions, does it really matter?
But you know that it does.
It always ends up in this case. Yeah. That's the real problem, right? Which is why I don't watch any of this stuff anymore.
If anything, it's just how modern media works, since everybody just interjects their agenda in everything now instead of just making something that should be entertaining.
But it's also why I don't watch any of their stuff, you know?
And so, and if they keep this woman, Christina Ariel, and they end up like firing Gina Carano for nothing.
Now that
basically doing nothing
actually makes me upset. I've been following the Gina stuff, and I don't even really like the show she's in, but I like Gina.
Yeah, then that's going to be horrible hypocrisy.
Yeah,
and just terrible overall. Because I like her.
Yeah,
I like her in The Mandalorian. I actually finally binge watched The Mandalorian, and she's a good character. So.
What they say. If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
That's right.
Yeah. I really liked her in Deadpool as well. I thought, anytime I see Gina, whether I actually like the thing or not, because she played Angel in the first Deadpool.
Angel.
Yeah.
The super strong woman who fought Colossus towards the end.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, she looks so different. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
God damn. God, she's hot. I don't know what, Dillard was like saying, what did he say? She looked like a man or something like that? I was like,
she is pretty built for a woman, but that's because she was a UFC fighter.
Yeah, but
she
goddamn,
I didn't knows how to fight.
I didn't even make that connection. Yeah, she was hot.
Yeah.
In Deadpool, that was awesome.
Yeah, if she gets fired from that, she might end up in the WWE. I mean, she's already got connections there. She knows the higher ups, and Rousey, who's a friend of hers from back when they used to fight each other, is already in wrestling. So it'd be really easy for her to get in.
Yeah. She did the superhero landing.
Yeah.
So bad for your knees.
Well, unless you have super durability, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody like Colossus or Superman couldn't give less of a shit if they landed on their knees like that.
Yeah.
Man, I don't even really like wrestling all that much, but if Gina went there, I'd probably start watching some. Especially if somehow she went up against Asuka, because I like Asuka. I like her as a entertainer and stuff. I watch her YouTube channel and stuff like that, Kana-chan. TV. And it's oh man, if those two ended up against each other, then I'd have to start watching at least women's wrestling. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to start watching it. I've never been interested in any of that ever, but I might have to start watching it if Gina Carano ends up in there.
Is that because you're hoping you'll see her in tights?
I'm just hoping I'd see her. At all.
Hey, those wrestling outfits are usually pretty hot.
Yeah.
Except for, what was her name? I mean, no, she looked fine in. I'm trying to remember the name of the person. I was watching it with Duggar. I was over at his place, and he watches, every wrestling event that comes on. And one of the women basically looked like a grown-up and sexier version of Serena from Pokemon X and Y. Just the whole way she was dressed. I'm like, what is this outfit? Who was it? I can't remember. It's gonna bother me. If he was here, he'd be able to tell you immediately, but When Duggar pops in, it's only on Wednesdays, if that even happens.
Yeah. Well, here's news. The Stardew Valley 1.5 update has been submitted to consoles for certification.
Yeah, I heard it should be out within like a month or so.
Yeah, he said it may be out within a week.
Oh, as it sped up from when I looked. That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, he said, Concerned8, I guess, made a tweet that said he estimates it'll be either end of this month or beginning of next month. So that's in a week or two.
Yeah, I know even with PlayStation's weird policies now, the large delay is really just getting a game submitted onto there initially. Once you're on, it's a lot faster to get like updates and patches and everything in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's been patching it, so I mean, it's kind of a smart way to do it. He did 1.5 on PC, but then he's put out several, bug fix patches. So presumably those are all going to be included in the console patch.
So I actually did have another interesting topic to talk about, or something that interests me. You might be interested in it too.
Okay.
And it's, Epic Games. Everybody knows Epic Games at this point in time. And they
what's that?
The Unreal Engine. And now they are actually looking to go outside of video games with the Unreal Engine. And they are partnering up with... I actually had the studio somewhere. Studio Hookup. And they are going to make a film in the Unreal Engine about the Epic of Gilgamesh. It'll just be called Gilgamesh. I find it extremely funny that Epic Games is part of the production of the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's some level of humor right there. I've already seen a still from it, at least for the Gilgamesh model. It have a still of his face. And it looks like it's following the actual story. It'll have the titular hero of myth, and he's on his mission to obtain immortality. Which anybody who's familiar with the Epic of Gilgamesh knows that Gilgamesh was a tyrant king. Who, like the type of classically tyrant king. Most of the country was effectively his slaves, even though they weren't in slavery, but he owned all the land as the king, so everybody working on it's his slave. They all owe taxes and stuff. He's got a horde of women and servants and stuff around him, and he's encountered by the wild man Enkidu, who comes from nature, and they have a wrestling match that, depending on the version of the story you listen to, the actual only surviving version that we have, so any other account like coming from the neighboring lands is an altered version. The surviving version, Gilgamesh wins their fight, but it was so close that he was impressed by Enkidu, and they became lifelong friends because of it. And all this different stuff happens. They end up having fights with the gods at some point in time. They even approach the guardian of the woods, who's a demon, and the woods knows Enkidu because he was the wild man. He's disappointed. In their fight with the gods, Enkidu dies, which causes Gilgamesh to worry about his own mortality, and he goes on a quest to the land of the gods to find the answer to immortality. And by the time he's done, he realizes that he just doesn't have what it takes to become immortal, and that is a fruitless quest. It's not something a man can do. And he's an old, withered man, but he returns the wise man and actually becomes a really good king for the rest of his life and is no longer a tyrant. It's a good story. It's like, the oldest story we have on record. I think it's like 12, or is it maybe 15,000 years old? Right? It's literally the oldest narrative that we have surviving in history. And it's also the first bromance and buddy road trip story. So, if you want to talk about what's the oldest story in history, it's a buddy road trip.
It's funny that it teaches such a relevant message for today, where two enemies, men, come together, they fight, and then become friends.
Yeah, they handle their differences with their fists.
That's right.
And gain respect for each other, and then they become lifelong friends. Yeah.
Right. And, in today's society where they don't let boys, duke it out, and...
Nothing ever gets resolved.
Right.
Yeah. It's because, for the most part, and it's because evolution takes a really, really long time to get anything done, humans really haven't changed in the last 15,000 years. Our technology has. Yeah. The way our society looks has changed, but humans are still roughly the same.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah. And I'm excited. I love the Epic of Gilgamesh. I think it's a good movie. The animation looks fine because it looks like the Fortnite / Dauntless animation, like the way the character models are, which I don't really care too much for the games. But when I look at it, it's like they kind of look like DreamWorks characters, like Road to El Dorado and stuff like that. And it's like I could see that working really well in a movie. Like I don't want to play Fortnite, but as an animated movie, I could see this being good.
Well, did you ever see that Beowulf movie that was animated? Or like with stop motion?
Are you talking about the one that was not live
Angelina?
Action? Yeah. The one that was treated like it was live action, but it wasn't because it was like everything was capped into stop motion.
Yeah,
Uncanny Valley, the movie.
Yeah, right, Uncanny Valley, the movie. I liked it. I liked that movie. It just doesn't precisely follow the story of Beowulf. There's some creative liberty twists in it.
Right. And
like, why would Grendel's mother be Angelina Jolie with a snake tail?
Okay, what were you saying, Marsupial?
I was saying, how did they do that movie? Did they actually film the actors and then they
Yeah.
reskin them?
You could see behind the screens, they're like mocapped on a green screen.
Okay. But this one, the Gilgamesh one, is just fully CG rendered in the Unreal Engine.
Yeah. So they're going to render it like how modern game cinematics are done in engine, but it's just going to be a whole movie done in engine.
Isn't it? Did they not do that with World of Warcraft? Or, Warcraft? Whatever.
I don't know how that works. I did not pay too much attention. They might have. But I don't know. Doesn't Warcraft have live action elements in it?
Warcraft? That was live action. They used mocap for the orcs.
Yeah. I thought it had live action elements. Like all the people, the elves had like... their ears were mostly CG, but I think for the most part they were just people.
Okay. Oh, alright. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
That was just a movie where like half the cast was Hulk from Avengers.
Well, it wasn't just that. That whole movie was basically done similarly in filming to Beowulf. They just didn't add layers on top of people because literally everything was done on green screen. Yeah, like everything's fake in that movie except for the people.
So the entire movie just filmed in a studio?
Yeah.
Timothy Olsen is here. Mocap, worst MK character ever. Is that the actual name of a Mortal Kombat character?
Yes. Although I think it was spelt with a K.
Because everything's spelled better with a K until you get 3 of them in a row.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Armageddon, I think.
He was. But again, Armageddon had the largest cast out of any Mortal Kombat, and actually I think until Super Smash Bros. Just recently passed it up. Like, because it had like 60-something characters, and when Ultimate came out, they passed up Armageddon. Armageddon had like, until Ultimate, the largest cast of any fighting game. What? Oh, Timothy, not only are them fighting game words, that might even be blocking words. Mortal Kombat Armageddon is the best Mortal Kombat in the franchise. And I will fight anybody over that. That is the house favorite here, I'll have you know.
Yes, I'm reading about mocap, and that sounds really stupid.
Yeah.
Hey doesn't exist.
And you may not like the custom fatality system. I still think it has one of the best custom fighter creators out of any fighting game. Because it basically let you take moves from any character, attach them to the combos you want, and create your own fighting style in both a weapon stance and a hand-to-hand stance. And it had like really in-depth pieces of like resizing things, recoloring things. You had to play the single-player campaign to get it, but there was all kinds of pieces. Like if you want a custom fighting character, that's the best one. It had the largest roster. Most of them weren't clones. I mean, there were plenty of clones of each other. Like Sub-Zero and his sister basically played identically and stuff like that. But most of them weren't clones. So there was plenty of unique characters in it. It actually had a unique, almost 3D beat-em-up semi-platformer adventure mode with a character that was made for that game. So there's like a full adventure game in this fighting game. And it had a Mario Kart-style kart racer added in it too. Like, this game gave you pretty much everything. Yeah.
Yes, he means Frost, and she sucks.
I know she's hot though, or I guess cold, but whatever. You know, you get what I mean. Oh, it's been forever. I don't care if Frost isn't actually his sister. She's
No,
like in the
she
same clan or
eventually got
something.
turned into a cyborg because people realized that just being a female Sub-Zero wasn't enough to make her worth anything.
Yeah.
But then she just became another stupid cyber ninja, so now she's still not worth anything.
Yeah.
What?
But it's the best one. I don't care what anybody says.
What is this, Katy Perry? Did we talk about this already at one point? Katy Perry being involved somehow with the
Pokemon celebration?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about that like 2 podcasts ago.
Okay. I'm just fascinated by this
Yeah.
video they put out with Katy Perry.
Yeah. Well, I guess since we're heading into like pretty much the last block of the podcast, we could do a quick recap of the session you missed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because
Rick was originally mentioning ideas that would get me killed.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. Marsupial ended up sleeping through the whole RPG session yesterday.
Have it at 2 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. and I'll be there.
I would love to. Believe me, I would rather be doing this in the middle of the night.
There you go.
But we had to get this on a schedule that would work, or at least as we thought, for most of the people involved. Yeah. I think doing it at the time that we usually run the podcast would actually be a better one, at least, if we started at 6. But I don't know.
Maybe I should give you my phone number, put the phone on maximum volume next to my head, every Friday night, and tell you to call me.
If you want me to call you, sure, give me your number. I'll do it.
or maybe better, just text me one letter at a time.
So it just keeps going off.
Yeah, because that would annoy the shit out of me and probably wake me up.
It's gonna take a long time because he's just gonna spell out one letter at a time. Marsupial, wake your ass up.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Do that.
Yeah.
That's what. Anyway, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he missed it. That's okay though. Only like Timothy showed up late, but at least he showed up, and early enough that he could still do the important thing from that session. Only half the people showed up. We knew Flip probably wasn't going to be there. He actually might not be there next time either. He was talking to me before, and Dillard didn't show up as well. So of the 6 people that play the game, only 3 people even showed up. At first it was only 2. I was even like, I don't even know if it's worth playing the session. We should probably just cancel it. But Rick was kind of gung-ho to try to get something done. Because he's got plans, and he's like, oh, great. Actually, the less... I can tell what's going on in his head. The less people are here, the less people can stop me from getting done what I want to get done.
Plus, he can... the less people we have to share golden experience with, right?
Yeah. And he kept, as Buck was bringing up, he kept wanting to go to things that would probably get them killed. Because remember, Rick can't kill people. All he could do is lower them down to 1 at most. So he'd be reliant on Rabton, Buck's character, who is slow. Like, you can still only move 3 spaces at a time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's slow. Having to follow him around, cleaning things up, and hopefully not everything killing him before that. Right? And just the 2 of them. And he wanted to wander off to either going to Clement Bay, which is on the opposite side of the continent, and you have to walk into another zone.
No. His first idea was Kestel Village.
Well, he kind of like weighed both of them about the same, right? And Clement seems like the slightly saner one at this point, but it's still not smart because you have to go into the desert and you have no idea what enemies are in the desert. And then he wants to go to Kestel Village, which to do that means you have to go into the field on the other side of the mountains, and he also doesn't know what enemies are on the other side of the mountains, if they're the same as the plane that he's in or not. I'll address that in a second. And so he kept trying to have these different ideas of doing things that just... none of them sounded smart. And I was even asking, like... if you guys both die, I'm gonna have to ask your teammates, all of them, to vote as to whether your people managed to, like, get found by somebody and brought back, managed to, like, crawl their way back, or if they're actually just permanently dead because of the stupid decision you make. And knowing both of your characters, I was even talking to Marsupial about this last night, I think your team, not just on Rick, but for both of you, would probably opt in and saying you guys are dead, so you'd have to roll new characters. Because then, that means Rick doesn't have the problem where he can't kill people anymore. And you don't have that compulsion problem where your character has to spend all this money on candy.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't mention this to Rick, but I could potentially make it back by myself. But that's mostly if I just let him die and then leave.
So where did y'all go?
They didn't end up really going anywhere, right? So after a bit...
basically, we kept debating it because Rick wanted to go with these ideas that I knew was a bad idea. So I kept conflicting with everything he wanted to do. We eventually came to fishing, and then he came up with the idea of, well, what if we do a hunt and hire Rem Coco? And I still wasn't sure about that, but then Metal mentioned, well, you know, there's 3 people you can hire, and I'm just thinking,
I actually did not mention that. Rick asked.
Well, you mentioned it after he got there.
No, he asked me, because in previous session I had told him that there was more than one. He's like, didn't you say there was more than one person that you could hire? He's like, yes, there's up to 3. I was actually just answering a question. He remembered this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
I wasn't,
eventually
like, trying to force anything onto you guys or anything like that.
Yeah, eventually we came to that, and by then Tim re-showed up, though, so there was at least one more person.
Yeah, because Rick wouldn't have been able to afford more than one person anyway. He didn't have enough money. He needed Timothy for that.
So we ended up, after I failed a roll, trying to get them to understand what I was going to say. Because I can't speak very well.
Let me break that down, right? So his character has... It's kind of like being mute, but it's not. It was a custom disadvantage that I kind of, like, made for him when he was making his character to try to, like, balance things out. And his character has unintelligible speech when it comes to common tongue. He can speak Yeti just fine. If somebody knew how to speak Yeti, they would have no problem talking to him. He sucks at speaking the common tongue. And as part of the disadvantage, it doesn't matter how high he makes it. All it does is it gives him a higher chance of accidentally saying things the right way. Right? So what he does is basically he can whisper to me what he wants to say, and then he rolls, and if he beats it or not, I will tell you guys what you heard. You know, not what he intended to say. And in this case, he wanted to say that he was going to chip in and give some money for Heavy Brow. But his character doesn't know Heavy Brow. He's never heard his name. And knowing Manly Cougar at this point, he just thinks he's a guy with big eyebrows that Manly Cougar's calling a nickname because Manly Cougar doesn't know anybody's names. And he's like, instead of actually getting that across, what I translated from his... It was a critically failed roll, too, so it came off like your character was pretty angry to them. But everything you sound like probably comes off as angry. He's like, I will throw the metal objects at the... at the heavy eyebrow man's face.
It was, I will throw the metal into the face of the eyebrow.
Yeah, that was it, into the face of the eyebrow. That was what came out. And it almost seemed like he was angry, like he was just going to throw an object at this guy, like he wanted nothing to do with it. So they're like, oh, okay, whatever.
When he was actually saying, I'll pitch in money to hire him?
No, this is what he was wanting to say, yeah.
Which, as a result, I didn't have to pay, though.
Yeah, he's the only one that actually came out positive in money from the hunt they went on.
Because Heavy Brow was more expensive to hire than Remcoco. Yeah. And through the split, they both spent more money on the two of them than they would have made, because while Rick could have came on top, the fact that he has the gill sync disadvantage caused his reward to dip under the 500 he paid for.
And Timothy, even though he had Gillionaire, came just short of going over the 650, going under the 650 that he paid for Heavy Brow. So they both were at a deficit, but they got experience from it. So they hired them and they went to the Antlion's cave, which they got extremely lucky. I don't know why they get lucky on these rolls, specifically when Marsupial's not there. Because also when you guys went to Mount Ubal Pass the first time, and I rolled to see what you'd be fighting against, you also didn't fight anything on the way there. And that was, he woke up late and was trying to catch up to you guys that time. For some reason, when you're not there, they just get really lucky rolls where they don't have to fight anything on the way from town to the mountains.
They're getting my lucky rolls. I would be getting those rolls.
There's another thing you might not like about this, though, too.
Yeah, I already told them about it. Rick was there. But we'll get to that. So they went to go fight the Antlion, and they had to go to the Antlion's lair, which is in the mountains. And they didn't have to fight anything on the way there. Even after beating it, they didn't have to fight anything on the way back either. Just luck of the draw there. And they went to go fight it. And the Antlion, having Rimcoco there, the first thing that she has to do every single turn, if the person hasn't been scanned yet, is that she has to scan it. And you find out immediately that the Antlion is weak to ice. Which would have been very helpful to have Talon around, since he has both ice arrows and blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, after, because I reveal the stats to the people who beat it because it goes into their hunt log. So they get to see the monster's, stat sheet. You realize, this thing had hardly any magic armor. It was one of those beasts that was designed for, like, the mages to be good against. And it's the time that he sleeps through it.
Yeah, both times you miss out, it's the things that are the more vulnerable to magic.
Yeah. And, it was a very, very short battle. I think, what was it, like 2 turns? It was the second time that Remcoco got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 turns. She scanned it the first time, and because it's a boss, the way I have it set up, what moves she can do, she can use any blue magic that is 80 or less MP. Just so you know what kind of magic she has. And the boss's level was 15, which means it's divisible by 5. Like, oh, you know what falls exactly in that category for both of those? Level 5 death. Let me roll that real quick. And she gets it, because her magic accuracy is way higher than an Antlion's magic evasion. So the odds, even minus 50 over it, of her getting it, were good. And she basically, the first time she gets to attack it, she kills the Antlion. She did one-shot the monster. You guys, well, actually, I don't. Did you ever get to touch it?
I did, and you said that was the first time it took damage.
Yeah, because you did knock it back some. Yeah, so they got to chip a little bit away from it, and it was basically at like 45 something, like 45-23 out of 4,700 left when Remcoco used level 5 death and killed it. So, yeah, you could basically say she one-shot the monster. She doesn't even really do that much damage, normally. But that spell is just kind of like, it's an insta-gib, if it happens to take effect. So they managed to get everything done that they were doing within the 2-hour mark, and because you guys weren't around, we didn't extend it any further.
Hey, can I ask a question? Because I'm... related to this game, because I'm looking at different types of ammo, because I realized since I now have Blizzard, it's kind of pointless for me to have ice arrows.
Yeah.
Because I can already do ice damage. What does +2 DS mean in equipment abilities?
+2 DS.
Yeah, do you have
I'm trying
any
to
idea?
think about that. Let me look. I actually have to look at this. Let me pull it up on my browser.
It's on the PDF, it's on page 178. The Artemis arrows have +2 DS. And the pulse ammo, I guess if you're using a rifle, has +2 DS.
Yeah, what page was
yes,
it again?
Eller did see the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer. We actually talked about it earlier.
Yeah, okay. What page was it?
178.
178.
Or it's on the page, it says 172, but on the PDF, it's actually...
Yeah, you have to add 6 because of the introduction pages.
Right.
Okay, let's see. DS. That, okay, well, it would be explained at the top of the weapons section where they explain all the...
Okay, I was looking at the top of the ammunition section, and it doesn't seem to explain it.
Let me go up, see what that stands for. Okay, DS is damage scale. The weapon's basic damage scale is increased by the indicated amount for purposes of calculating damage. So basically, that is the only ammunition that increases the amount of damage your thing uses. So if it says +2 DS, that increases the multiplier. So like if it's times strength by 2. So if it was 4 times strength, it now becomes 6 times strength.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I take it that's going to be your next purchase.
Maybe. But it doesn't change the number of dice?
No, it's just the damage scale.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because goddamn, Artemis arrow. Well, it depends. I don't know if that town has them, but they're only 400 gil. If the town has them, so.
Well, I guess next session you'll be asking them if they have it.
Yeah, because I mean that'll bring my bow and arrow up almost to the level of where my spells are doing. Potentially, could be. Because otherwise, obviously I'd still have to roll to hit, unlike the spells. But right now, it's almost pointless for me to use my bow and arrow because it doesn't always hit.
It does less damage.
It does far less damage, yeah.
Yeah, unless you come up against a monster that has, like, ridiculous amounts of magic armor or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
But anyway. So I noticed it was kind of a short session. Like, I woke up like 3 hours later. I was like, maybe they're still playing. And I was like, oh, no, they finished after only 2 hours.
We might have been still playing if literally like anybody else had shown up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Elric is obsessed with tunberries. What is up with your obsession with tunberries?
Because tunberries are the horror of everybody's existence.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically just very slow enemies that one-shot you if you don't kill it by the time it makes it to you, so it tends to leave an impression on anybody who plays those games or is even remotely, like, you know, familiar with the game type.
Yeah. Oh, just wait till you get to 5. You'll know what everybody's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first time they appear. And they make some type of appearance, even if it's just referential, in like every game after that. Like in 12, you don't actually fight them, but there's like there's a reference, there's like a ship named Tonberry at the beginning of the game.
I mean, technically that could happen, Elric, but there is one slight silver lining. As long as one person survives the battle, I do revive with 1 HP.
Yeah. That is like an advantage that you have.
And I have the sprint shoes, so I can presumably run away with it, or run away from it while still,
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't
spells.
help your escape, but...
No, I think Elric was, like, suggesting the idea of if he was the only one to successfully escape and the rest of the team wiped.
Oh, well, it depends what you mean by escape, because if you actually try to flee, which is the escape mechanic, if one person flees, the whole team does. Just like in the
Well, yeah,
Final
but
Fantasy
other
games.
than me, we don't automatically revive from the, like, dead state.
Yeah, I mean, again, that doesn't matter too much, right? As long as somebody flees. If there's somebody alive, and presumably somebody has Phoenix Downs on them, even if it's the dead person, they can loot your body for the Phoenix Down. That's fine. Right? Which means somebody has to be alive, period, because your thing doesn't even work unless somebody was alive to escape. As long as somebody's alive, you're good. Like, just period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's what I was mentioning in response to Elric, because he was talking about if the rest of the party wiped and Cross was the only one who escaped, then running into a Tonberry while he's by himself.
As long as he doesn't move, he doesn't progress into the next battle. And I don't really think... I'm going to say, I don't think Rick, as dumb as some of the ideas that he has in this game have been, I don't think he's dumb enough to not try to revive one of you guys. Right? Like, you'll be fine, obviously, because of your thing. But to not even just loot somebody for a Phoenix Down and say, maybe try to revive their healer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I mostly just stock up on potions, because I figure if I go down after the battle, I can just drink potions and I'll be good.
There you go. So after a battle where you are knocked out, but at least one person survives, you automatically get revived with 1
pretty
HP?
much any battle that's not a party wipe. If he gets knocked out, he'll come back up.
Yeah, as long as one person survives the battle, I will revive with 1 HP once it's over.
Got it. Is the one being revived Dillard? Well, probably, hopefully not, since he can't heal. I mean, outside of potions.
Yeah, if you're gonna use a Phoenix Down on anybody, I would suggest Flit every single time.
Well, yeah, if he's around.
even if he doesn't have raise yet, like, just, he's more likely to use a Phoenix Down on other characters afterwards, too.
Yeah.
And he can cast Cure.
I also
Rick
have...
would probably immediately waste his on his bird.
Oh, God, yeah. I think he did that once, too.
I think he did, yeah.
See, I've got the group heal, too, so...
Yeah.
If I'm there. Joe went into battle with no healers, although you've got plenty of potions, but still.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, too, about hiring both of those people is that Rebcoco was enough to get it done by herself. The other guy never even had a chance to do anything. No. It was kind of just like a waste of money bringing him along.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim kind of got screwed over in that regard.
And they still have no idea how strong the guy is either. Because he didn't get a chance to do anything.
Eagle 43 is here. He says, is Zelda A Link Between Worlds the same as A Link to the Past? And the answer is
mostly, kind of, but it's also its own game with its own story.
It has the same map.
Same map.
That's about it.
Same function between the Light World and Dark World, except it's kind of different as well. The dungeons are kind of the same, but also different. The items are kind of the same, but also different. That's it. It's kind of like I would say A Link to the Past redo would be a witty way of saying it, right? It is.
That was the original.
Yeah.
That was the original intent.
Yeah.
They intended to remake A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And then at some point in development, they were like, you know what? We could just make this a whole completely different game.
Yeah, you see this kind of like paint mechanic thing? This would be cool in the game. Let's let Link go on the walls.
Yeah. And slip between cracks.
Can we trust Cross to revive Marsupial if the Chocobo isn't down?
He means
possibly?
No, if the Chocobo is down. That was what he was asking.
Yeah.
No, he's asked again, said isn't.
He corrected himself and said, is down.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Then no, I don't think we can trust Rick to revive us instead of his
bird. Because Rick might
bird.
just be like, well, my Chocobo's got more health, so it might help us get back to town easier.
Or if he's by himself and the Chocobo is dead and like me and him are the only ones up, maybe he'll revive one of the healers, but...
I mean, if we're allowed to talk while we're knocked out and say, hey, Rick, if you revive me...
I'm pretty sure by then Flit would have already said, with my final breath, I curse Manly Cougar.
That's right.
No, Cross would be like, well, can't I just fly back to town without fighting anything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually would probably be him.
Yeah.
Can you, if you're riding a Chocobo, do you avoid all random encounters?
Typically, that's how it's worked in the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technically that might work, but that also leaves me stranded in the field.
With a bunch of unconscious bodies.
So what do you have?
Yep.
Okay, so he can somehow transport all of us that way.
No, because only one person can ride his Chocobo.
The only thing he could possibly do is if he didn't revive you guys, like have the Chocobo fly back and forth, but I'm not sure it even works that way.
Well, maybe. Actually, let me look. What does his mount have? Does his mount have large? If his mount has large, he might be able to take one other person with him. I have to double check this real quick. And then I have to look at what large lets you do. Because I'm vaguely thinking he might be able to take one person with him, but then he'd have to leave the rest of the unconscious bodies behind. And basically send a rescue team. Which I guess isn't the worst idea in the world.
I mean, if it allows him to take one at a time, just put one body on and have him go back and forth if flying avoids battles.
I'm looking for his original sheet. Where is it? Here it is.
Hey, did you hear Larry from Rebel Comics is getting surgery on like kidney surgery.
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, he said he's not going to be streaming for a week, or at least a week, or maybe in a week. I don't know. For a while, because he's going to be recovering from kidney surgery. So, all the best to Rebel Comics. Hope everything works out.
I think it's under advantages. Let me look.
Timothy says,
nope,
who is with me?
He has mount and flying. That's right, because he only has 2. So his is a normal size mount, which a chocobo does qualify for, even though it's 8 feet. It's within like the bounds of a normal sized character. Single square. If he had a large mount, he would be able to take more than one person with him, but it's only mount and flying are the 2 perks on that animal.
So basically, he would fly off, leaving me stranded, and I'd have to pray that I can walk back carrying the bodies and not run into anything strong enough to kill me.
Yeah.
Eagle
I mean,
says
as
Final
traveling
Fantasy
adventures... Oh, what are you saying?
That Eagle says Final Fantasy is basically Pokemon, right? You can release your mount into the wild. Yeah, you can release a Pokemon. I mean, a Chocobo. Yeah.
Yeah, a good way of looking at it is, as adventurers, you do basically have a cart that you drag with you places, but it's just not shown. So I'm assuming, like, if everybody else is unconscious, the reason the Final Fantasy characters always keep you with them is because they just load the unconscious bodies onto the cart.
Who's carrying this cart?
Yeah, you know, this is the thing that's always bothered me, too,
pulling.
because, like, you can't bring this into a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In our case, it's probably going to be me.
You got a Legend of Zelda item pouch where everything shrinks when you put it in. And so when somebody gets knocked out, you just put them in your pouch.
But I think with the original Final Fantasy, because a lot of people in like D&D, they assume that when you're in the world, you're not in a dungeon, your characters have like a cart they bring with you with all their supplies and stuff. And the original Final Fantasy was really supposed to be like a D&D campaign. So I think that was like the assumption. But like the progression of the rest of the series just doesn't work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially once it starts becoming more narratively focused. Like Final Fantasy IV would not work at all if your characters had like a cart or something.
I guess I just have like a massive backpack.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that like some of the characters in like Dragon Quest have like these huge backpacks that go back like several feet behind them and like
I'm like that Goron merchant at the foot of Death Mountain.
There you go. Yeah. Gigantic backpacks that must weigh like 150 pounds or something. I've when I went to camp, I've done like.
The good news is I can carry you all out. The bad news is you will reek of candied fish afterwards.
That's right.
Well, I think what the real solution is, you send Rick back to town by himself with as much money as you can give him, and then he just comes back with a buttload of Phoenix Downs. Assuming you're in a place that he can actually fly out of. This is the assumption that he always has, right? That he can fly out of this place. What if you're deep inside a dungeon? Right? You're like, oh, he's a chocobo, he can still avoid battle. But can he? Because his chocobo fights in battle with him.
But in Final Fantasy, you can't ride a chocobo in dungeons.
No, you can't. But in this game, because it functions more like a D&D game or whatever, you can be on a mount in dungeons, and even though it's a chocobo, his mount is just a mount.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't think it has that same ability to avoid random encounters.
He would have to get out of the dungeon to be able to get into the air and start flying. Yeah. And then, what's to say if you're in a circumstance where a door locks behind you, and everybody except for 2 of you guys are dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way out is to go forward.
Why does Timothy keep talking about tone berries?
I don't know.
What was I going to say? Oh, isn't there... So, is there in this game the concept of different colored chocobos with different abilities?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Rick's flying, so I'm like, oh, well, that means you have a black chocobo. When he said he has a flying mount.
Gotcha. Because where did they introduce the idea of breeding chocobos in different colors? Is that Final Fantasy VII?
Yes. So the first time you see a chocobo of different color is 4, where you have the black chocobo and you have the fat chocobo and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Wait, actually, no. Was there a white chocobo in 3? I know the version of 3 that you're playing has fat chocobos in it, but I don't think that was in the original version of the game.
Like one type can go over rivers, one type can go over mountains.
But 7 is where chocobo breeding was a thing. Like where you actually go to the farm and you can breed different types of chocobos and stuff like that. Yeah. You have like red chocobos, white chocobos, black chocobos.
Right. That all do different things.
Yeah.
Timothy Olsen, are you happy with your candy fish addiction? You know you're killing your mother.
You know, that even makes me think, too. One of the biggest problems with 7 as a game, even though some of the things are cool, is one of the biggest problems with the modern gaming industry in general, and it's kind of like the death of genres, where 7 was an RPG that also tried to be too many different other things. There are all these different mini games and things to do in 7, right? Chocobo breeding was kind of a sub-game in itself. There's all the mini games in the flying saucer. There's the snowboarding part of the game. There's the frickin' motorcycle part of the game. And it's trying to be all these different things when all it had to do was be a really good RPG.
Yeah.
And part of this is the stuff that confuses people, because all these like mini games and mini events drag people off the main part of the plot, and then you can never like find the direction you were supposed to be going again.
Yeah, that was me. By the time, basically, I've never made it past the part where you get to the flying saucer.
Yeah, the gold
never,
saucer.
in
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, because
a lot of that happens to a lot of people, believe it or not. Like the gold saucer. I start
to do stuff like there, and I'm like, wait, where am I supposed to go next? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I completely get lost. And I'm
hey,
like,
look, there's
I don't
Kate
even know
Sith. What was they doing?
No. Squirrel.
Wait,
it's
there's
crazy.
a snowboard game in Final Fantasy VII? Yes, there's a part where you go snowboarding in Final Fantasy VII.
If 2 Chocobo males are friends, are they Chocobros?
I guess.
I'm gonna have to time out Timothy Olsen. No, I'm just kidding.
I kind of want to draw a Chocobro at some point in time. Maybe I'll put in the game. It'll be like a Chocobo with like a backwards cap, some sunglasses, and maybe have like just a baseball jersey loose over it, unbuttoned. Just be a Chocobro.
Yeah.
See, you say that, but now all I can think of is Chicken Boo.
Now I'm gonna have that song in my head. Elric asked an interesting question. Can you tie someone up and use them as a melee weapon against the next random encounter? Yeah, I think he's thinking about Scott Pilgrim, where you can pick up people and like slam them on other people.
A classic beat 'em up thing, yeah.
That's right.
I don't see why not. It's just there are several task checks I'm going to have to make you succeed in order to do that.
And what's the damage on that? What's the damage to the melee weapon that you're using?
Why is there a snowboard mini game in just a huge game that requires 2 discs to play? I don't know. I don't know why all this stuff is in Final Fantasy VII.
See, they should have stuck with Nintendo and the cartridges and been like, no, we're going to just.
We don't have room for all this.
Yeah, we don't have room for all this junk. Take it out. It's unnecessary anyway. Make it a more streamlined game.
Because it was still possible to do this on the 64, you just don't really have many people doing it because everybody wants to use the 64's new graphical capability to use polygons. It was still perfectly possible to make a pixelated game on the 64, and that was kind of the original design, because they were going to make Final Fantasy VII look like Final Fantasy VI originally. You can even see some old stills from when they were working on that stuff. And they basically designing it as if it was going to be on the Super Nintendo, but for the 64.
Yeah. But see, the problem is, at that time, it was like, you had Mario 64 and you had Ocarina of Time, and it's like everybody expected it. Like, you can't do another sprite game. Everybody was expecting, it's got to be polygons. It's got to be 3D, blah, blah, blah.
Well, especially with how close Final Fantasy VI was to the 64 coming out, too. Right? If there's a little more time between it, maybe people would have expected it, because they'd be like, oh, you've been working on 7 for the SNES for so long, and you were expecting the SNES to last longer, so you just ported it over, right? But it's like, both 6 and Chrono Trigger came out so close to the end of the Super Nintendo's life cycle. They're like, no, you should have expected that the next game was going to be on the next console. And probably not even started until you knew what the capabilities of the next console was.
Yeah. And they had just done 2 games, right? For the SNES. Wasn't 5 an SNES game too?
Yeah, they had 3 total.
Oh, 4, right. 4, 5, and 6.
Technically only Super Famicom, but they're, effectively the same system. You program the same way. It's just, we had a region-locked system. It wasn't just like, oh, there's some code that region locks it. Like, the whole system is different, and that's how the region lock works. So we have different cartridge shapes. You can't fit a Super Famicom cartridge into a Super Nintendo. They've got different, docking patterns at the bottom.
But then they had a pattern of doing 3 for every consoles. 7, 8, and 9 for all PlayStation 1.
It was supposed to be that way with PlayStation 2, but 13 took too long to get off the ground.
Wait. No, but didn't they do 10, 11, and 12 for PlayStation 2?
Yeah, but 11's on the PlayStation 2. It's not designed for the PlayStation 2. 11's an MMO.
Right. But 10 and 12 are on the PlayStation 2, right?
10 and 12. And 11's an MMO, so it's kind of You could still say, they had 3 on the PlayStation 2, but 11, while it's a really great game and one of the best MMOs I've ever played, kind of a black sheep in the Final Fantasy mainline bunch because it's an MMO.
Didn't you just praise Mortal Kombat for having all these sub-games?
I did. It works with Mortal Kombat, because all of the sub-games, including the main game with Mortal Kombat, are really short. Final Fantasy is a 7, if you played at the intended rate, is like a 40-hour game where they add all these sub-games that don't add anything to the game. The thing with Mortal Kombat Armageddon is you can choose whether you want to play all these sub-games. With Final Fantasy VII, some of them you can choose whether you want to play them or not. You have to do the motorcycle part, and you have to do the snowboarding part. A lot of these things are just put into your path. You have no choice whether you do them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Armageddon... they give you so many different ways of unlocking everything, you could functionally only play the Versus version of that game and still basically enjoy it. You can't play Final Fantasy VII and only want an RPG and just only enjoy playing the RPG portions of the game. That's the big difference between my praise and complaint. And I still like 7, right? I'm not... People, when I shit talk 7, they think I'm actually calling it a bad game. I think it's a good game. I enjoy it. I give that a 6.5 out of 10. It's just overrated as far as Final Fantasy, where there's other games that do the job better. They focus better. Their mechanics are better. The materia system's cool. I actually really like the materia system. I thought it was a good way of learning magic, because you can equip whatever you want to basically whoever you want, as long as you have the right weapon slots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But there are so many little things about 7 that just doesn't make it as good as other Final Fantasy games that get overlooked. And it's just like the time period in which it came out. It came out at the right time, right? It's a right time, right place situation for why it's so beloved. Like, shoot,
yeah, it was right
is
at
a
the
much better game.
It was right at the beginning of the PlayStation life cycle too, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people who maybe the PlayStation was their first console might have gotten it.
Yeah. And it's also right at the beginning from when games went from 2D to having 3D designs. So that has a big thing to do with it too. It's right at the beginning where games could get that size. Because playtime between 6 and 7 really aren't that different. The experience of the world of 7 is a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the playtime's not that much different. Arguably, 6 can effectively be a longer game, but it's still a smaller experience. You know? There's so many things about it. Especially Europe, talking about PlayStation being the first console. Europe didn't really get any Final Fantasy other than Mystic Quest until 7. No, 3 was 6. And 4 was 2 in America when it first came out. 7 was 7. When it came out, 7 was 7 everywhere. Yeah, FF6 was labeled as 3 and FF4 was labeled as 2 here in the States originally.
Yeah, I was streaming Final Fantasy 3 the other night, and someone was talking about it, and then I suddenly realized, oh, wait a minute, you're talking about Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah.
I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that game yet. He's like, yeah, but it was called 3 when I played it. And I was like, yeah, I understand. Okay, let me explain.
Yeah. This has gotten a lot of people over the years.
Yeah.
I'm about to break this down to my mom, who still thinks 4 is 2.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're playing Final Fantasy 3. I love that game. And then when they started to describe their experience with it, I was like, no.
Well, for the longest time, I thought Final Fantasy 2 was my favorite Final Fantasy. Because that's grew up. It's like, well, this is the second Final Fantasy. They just didn't make anything between the NES and SNES until now. Until I learned, it's like, oh no, there was actually 2 games in between here.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 2 is not your favorite game.
No.
Or not your favorite Final Fantasy.
4 is my favorite. I think 6 is the best, but 4 is my favorite. I really like the story in 4. And I kind of like the fact that you get 5 people on your team, even if you're forced into the row system, where 2 people have to be on one row and 3 have to be on the other. It's still just cool having 5 people on your team at certain points in time.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about 7 was that you can only ever have 3 people.
Yeah.
That was really annoying to me.
And you basically, like, having cell phones in game, people are like, why do they have cell phones in Final Fantasy Advent Children? Like, did you not pay attention? They clearly always had cell phones on them. When you go to change out your party, the features call. You basically call them up on the phone, they come out and switch places with people. Cell phones have always been a part. Now, they had to have been goofier cell phones when they originally designed it, because when they made Advent Children, they were the flip phones that were more common at the time that Advent Children were made.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 2, watching me play that was nuts.
Yeah.
It pissed me off. Even last night when I wiped on that end, that dungeon boss, I was not as pissed off. I was a little mad, but I was not nearly as pissed off as when I wiped like many, many, many times in Final Fantasy. Because it didn't feel like completely unfair. Well, it was a little unfair, but Final Fantasy 3 is not nearly as unfair as 2.
And people also, they often ask me too about this, like, bring up the whole 6 is the best, 4 is my favorite. He's like, well, how can, if you think 1 is the best, why isn't that one not your favorite? It's like, well, there are subjective reasons why I like one more than the other, but you gotta be able to separate your subjective feelings from, like, as close to objective reality as you can get. Now, sometimes your favorite might line up with the thing that's actually the best. Like, I know in your case, 6 is your favorite.
Yeah.
But it's like, just because I like 4 more, I have to recognize that 6 as a game is just a better game, its mechanics are better. It brings so much more to the game. Like, it has, you know how the back attack was introduced in 3, which you're experiencing now. They also have 2 variants where you can be surrounded, or you can surround the enemies in 6. Yeah. Right. Which is basically, you call flanking, is now a thing in 6 that they add to it. It also has the multi-party system where you could go into some dungeons and your party can split up and you hit the select button to switch between parties. Like, there's just so much actual good stuff added to 6. And it's like, when they were adding things to 6, they were adding things that expanded on the RPG mechanics. When they were adding things to 7, they were adding things that had nothing to do with the fact that it's a role-playing game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I can think of now is just the idea that they just call someone on your cell phone. Hey, I'm about to go into this really dangerous-looking dank cave that's probably got, like, some huge monster in it. You willing to come in? And then the rest of these people are just like, you know what? Sure, I'll come.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Right? Well, I can just imagine Barrett's like, I'm busy trying to be a dad. And he's like, there's a lot of money in this cave. And he's like, money means I can buy stuff from Marlene. I'm in! Oh, I love Barrett too. Like, I really like the characters from Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people think I don't like any of them too. Cloud is one of my favorite protagonists. When you actually understand Cloud, he's a good character. But even, like, Barrett is probably the most underrated character in that game, because he's a really good dad, and everything he's doing is for his daughter, so that she can have a good life and have a future and stuff. Like, he's effectively an eco-terrorist, because he realizes that the Shinra Corp is literally digging into the life force of the planet and might kill it, right? It's kind of like these global warming nuts, but, like, his fear is actually provably more legitimate and is going to happen within his lifetime, and it makes sense to do, like, really extreme things to stop this corporation from doing what they're doing. And he's like, no, I want my child to have a future, I have to do this stuff, even if it's a risk to my own life. And then, in Advent Children, the reason you don't see him until, like, the end of the movie, you even get a call for Cloud's cell phone, like, early on, is that he's off basically fracking. They need to find some alternative to Shinra's, like, live stream Mako digging stuff. And he's like, well, fossil fuels, that's a reliable source of energy. So he's off in an oil field, actually, and that's why Tifa's looking after Marlene. And she basically starts up an orphanage because of that. Yeah. He's actually he's a really good dad, and a lot of bad things happen to him. And he's a very underrated character, especially... There's a point in the game where Cloud can go on a date with one of the other party members, and really it's supposed to kind of be between Tifa and Aerith, right? And that's kind of thing. There's like a dating sim that's put into the game. I don't mind that this was added because it's a role-playing game. Making decisions is a part of role-playing, so adding a dating sim to a role-playing game doesn't bother me. This is why I never really got too much of the complaints of when people complain about dating sim stuff being added to Persona. I'm not such a big fan of the whole game basically being a dating sim, but I get it. It's still role-playing. There's a chance that you can end up on a date with Barrett, though. And you and him go up on the Ferris wheel, and it is the funniest thing. If you play your cards right, you'll end up with Barrett instead.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done that before.
Yeah.
Well,
we're over. Yeah. I wanted to come to a natural conclusion of the conversation. And it is time for us to end, so... Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Vomitorium. And we will see you at around the same time on Wednesday, assuming the world is still fine for all of us or each of us individually. Bye.
Bye.